Hey, everybody, it is Season 8 hype time, it is trailer time, and we are back, and it is, wow, this fandom really explodes when there's a trailer, doesn't it? And I guess this trailer was a little slow to come out, right? We were all, when's the trailer coming out? Usually it's out way farther than this, so it's kind of cool that we are able to do this now.
Surprised Sir Hunt's made it.
That's right? There were people on Twitter saying, no trailer, but of course.
Some people were like, it's going to be today for like the past 3 months.
It's kind of an odd time for it to drop, too, on a Tuesday morning. That's not... Maybe it was not that weird compared to older ones, but it seems like... That seemed odd to me. I don't know, maybe it wasn't, though. But, hey, everybody, it's great to be back. Glad to see all y'all in the chat. And I guess we have our sound is pretty good, so we'll continue on as normal. Let me say hey to our returning guest from Radio Westeros, our longtime companion in analyzing the show. Hey, Lady Gwyn, how you doing?
Hey, good. Happy to be here.
Feeling the hype?
Yes, feeling the hype.
All right, cool. Well, we have, of course, Ashea doing production. She pulled a bunch of awesome shots for us. Lots of work went into preparing this episode, even though we only had about less than a day-ish. Mm-hmm. I've been up till 7 a.m. the last 2 mornings, so I was one of the last people to find out about the trailer because I woke up at 2 in the afternoon yesterday, and it was out. But hey, speaking of returning, welcome back, Sean.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel, what's the word? Exhilarated? Rejuvenated?
Fired up? Yeah, something like
good.
that.
I feel good.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellente. All right, so let's go right into it. We're not gonna run this like a normal episode. We're not gonna do our patron stuff or mid-roll or any of that stuff. We're just gonna focus all trailer, all hype, nothing else. And because I know you guys have a ton of questions. And we have a lot of questions ourselves. We have a lot of notes. We have a lot of shots a lot of images directly from the trailer. And we want to use all the time we have because it's going to be a lot to cover. And we don't want this to be a 3-hour episode. Well, maybe we do, but we're going to try to avoid that anyway. So let's get right to it with the beginning of the trailer. Aria voiceover. It's a really cool kind of juxtaposition. On one hand, she's almost cocky about facing death. Like, who talks like that? I'm like, it's impressive, but also like, I don't know, Aria, I might be a little too confident. But maybe she's just kind of fire up whoever she's talking to. Maybe it's kind of like a morale thing she's saying to somebody else. How did you guys view this initial speech? Sean, you go first.
Well, I think this, like many things in the trailer and in previews in general for Game of Thrones or any show, we're going to see them out of order and out of context. Yes. There's going to be some characters who start off, like, who have all along started off blowing this thread off like it's nothing. And then they're going to see what it really is. And they're going to have there's going to be some irony there.
And sometimes they trick us a little, right? They put two things together that seem like they're part of one continuous shot, but they're not. Lady Gwyn, what are your initial thoughts from the beginning of the trailer and just from overall?
Yeah, what you said about the juxtaposition, I thought was cool. She's looking forward to meeting this face of death. I feel like this has to come kind of early on. We were speculating, I think maybe that she's talking to Gendry. I don't know who, we think she's talking to, but yeah, I mean, I think she's kind of talking trash, and then you see her running in terror, and wow, things change.
I think I agree with you that she's talking to Gendry. She's holding up like what looks like an obsidian spearhead, and then in all those scenes, she's carrying a broken spear shaft with that obsidian spearhead. And in those other scenes later in the trailer where she's kind of, it's really fast and there's some fire and she's kind of spinning around. we'll show a shot of that later. That also appears to be the same weapon in her hand. So it's not the dagger in her hand. That's what a lot of people first thought, including myself.
Me too.
But if we pull up, let's see, what's the first shot we have here, Shay?
I just had them all up.
Oh, she's already had them up. Okay, well, while they've all been up, that's excellent. So people can already see them. The dagger is at her hip, though. You can see that at one point. So she does have it, but she was fighting with this spear which the shaft broke at some point, I guess. Well, the thing that really gets me about this moment is, okay, so it's one thing for her to be running. It's one thing for her to be scared. But it looks like she's kind of psyching herself up to start her run. And that's the part that really trips me up, because it's one thing if she's just running away from some, it's gone bad and she's running away from some bad guys and trying to get to a better spot to fight them. That's pretty straightforward. But why would she need to pause and it's almost like she's making sure they don't see her. And that's really puzzling to me. I do not know what that's getting at. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I definitely had a sense that it was a stalking vibe. She's being stalked by something. Mm-hmm. She's got something on her tail. She's hiding. What it is, I can't imagine. I saw a lot of speculation about what it could be. I guess depending where it is. I mean, do we have thoughts about where she is? I thought initially she might be in the crypts, but then I'm thinking, having watched it a few times, it seems more like she's in the hallways upstairs in the castle itself. So I
agree, because the same shot I referred to when the spear is whole, it's she's amidst flame and fire. Yeah. So that's almost certainly not inside. So she's probably outside with the rest of the battle, and that does mean that she ran inside. And because she's still carrying the broken spear, the spear is whole when she's in the flame, amidst the flames, and then it's broken when she's running through the hallway. So that almost certainly, unless it's a different spear, which is possible, but seems, that seems kind of unlikely. But it seems like the running through the hallways comes after the twirling, spinning, because the spear is broken, right? It's the simplest answer, but it isn't necessarily true. But
I also assumed that she was in a crypt at first, but some of the scenes where she's running through corridors, it seems like there's windows with
there's snow coming in. You can see the snow,
But so it could be that she started off in a crypt and then ran up to those corridors, but maybe she started off outside and got to the corridors. It could be a lot of things. I also assumed that maybe there was a skirmish of sorts that she broke free from, gets around a corner, catches her breath, then has to she has to keep running. And so she's worried that when she does, someone might be there to notice her. And
it's kind of hard to imagine what she would be afraid of if she was just wrong, that the face of death is actually scarier than she thought, or it's something maybe a little unexpected. A couple of theories I've seen are she's freaked out because of the Stone Kings have risen, but if she wasn't in the crypts, then that wouldn't really fit. And or it could be the white version of somebody she knows. Maybe there's a Hodor white or something really scary like that.
A Littlefinger white.
There was a weird note on Twitter that he had a season 8 script, which is why would he have had a season 8 script? So
yikes.
It literally didn't occur to me until we were talking about it just now. I thought in general about the idea of people, the dead in Winterfell and the crypts or whatever, coming back, but then I started to think, because I was already asking Aziz, what happened to Robb Stark's body? I guess they didn't get Winterfell back before.
The phrase.
But just now, thinking about what would really scare Aria, if the guy whose throat she just slit was coming for her, they probably didn't give him a proper burial. I don't know if he's just laying in some room.
On the other hand, the whites are a single white is really easy to deal with, especially for her. She's got an obsidian spearhead and her cat's, but what I mean?
In general, that might be easy to deal with, but it still might be scary to face. She doesn't know how he's there. She might not know her weapon works against him, on and on,
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. And of course, the other thing about this is she's clearly been in action already. Her face is sweaty. There's a cut on her forehead. Yeah, bloody and sweaty and breathing heavily. Obviously, that's really gets you into the emotion of the scene there, of the trailer. So it's really interesting. This is a great way to start the trailer. It was puzzling. We weren't exactly sure what we were seeing. So let's take a step back just for a second and talk about this from a more meta level. It's generally
Did you say metal level?
Metal level. Yeah, the Night King's pretty metal. Arya's pretty metal. Battles in the ice are pretty metal. This is a battle at night, right? It's pretty metal. Well, we got a couple super chats here. Steven Stark says, super chat of 420 for the beard. Thank you, Steven Stark. And Thomas Pappas says, very last scene gave me a Battle of Ice vibe with the lights in the distance. Since the show decided not to go that route with Stannis, could we see it in the war against the others? Interesting idea. Yeah, I wonder about that. The lights in the distance, it's one I almost think it's like a it kind of feels like a light at the end of the tunnel, almost like in terms of a literal or a figurative thing. What do you think, Lady Gwyn? What do you think about that?
Didn't we already see something similar to at least that in the last season, the Battle of Ice? Didn't they do something on a frozen lake? And well, I guess that's where the dragon.
Yeah, that would be the closest parallel there. Yeah.
But this one, yeah, I did see that and think, well, it did have that kind of vibe. I could see where one might think that.
Yeah. Okay. We have, looks like a good number of people have shown up to watch this. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining us for this trailer discussion. Also want to say, hey, one of our usual fun things that we do during a show is talk about what we're drinking. Sean, you have a very oddly colored beverage, which is maybe not odd considering your normal weird colored beverage. That's like a mauve or like a lavender.
Standard. Yeah, I'd say lavender.
A lavender beverage.
Very pretty.
All right.
This is a one of the naked drinks,
okay.
the protein berry one, mixed with the blue Mountain Dew Voltage. It's delicious and relatively healthy.
Lady Gwyn, what are you drinking?
I have 2 drinks.
Nice.
This is this in the Hogwarts mug is Bowmore Scotch.
Nice.
And I have some tea and chaser in my blue mug.
I have my very standard, usual purple Valyrian steel coffee thermos, and it is filling me up good. Nor super chat from Laura Brando says, who do you think will wield Heartsbane? Well, we have an image for that. We were going to probably show it later, but we may as well show it now. It's Jorah pulling up on his horse outside of Winterfell amidst a bunch of other soldiers. He's got Dothraki behind him, and he's got Unsullied behind that. And if you look on his hip, there is a very large sword with a very large hilt, which can only be Heartsbane. Maybe there's other options, but I really can't imagine it being anything else. Now, wielding a two-handed sword from horseback is a little weird, but it's not completely unrealistic. You can use a great sword as a lance. That's a historical thing because they're so long. You can actually stick it out in front of you like that and stick them with the pointy end. And of course, since it's Valyrian steel, it should be a little bit lighter. But anyway, doesn't mean Jorah is going to survive and continue to wield it, though. There could be a second wielder or maybe even a third wielder of Heartsbane. And there's also these existing questions of whether it will be melted down into multiple blades because that might be more efficient. We have Gendry around. Obviously, seeing Jorah wielding it right before a huge battle definitely cuts back against the idea that it will be melted down into multiple blades. But I guess that could happen later. What do y'all think? Sean, you go first this time.
Yeah, I think I'm as interested in how he gets it in the first place. I think that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, who decides that he gets it? I was more thinking maybe Sandor, but as we'll see later, Sandor doesn't seem to be there. He seems to be elsewhere during this battle anyway. Also, I believe, I don't know how known or how spoilery this is, but I believe that this battle is in the 3rd episode. I think that's I think that's been rumored. Also, it seems likely that almost everything we've seen, just like most trailers, almost everything we saw, if not everything we saw, is from the first couple episodes. First 2 to 3 episodes. We probably didn't
usually show a clip of someone's face that could be from the 5th episode.
Yes.
But it does make sense that they're not going to give too much away from the end, more from the beginning.
And it's the end, right? It's not just the end of the season, it's the end that they would be giving away.
And that battle sequence took them 3 or 4 months to film or something crazy, twice as long as
way longer than the Battle of Bastards and at night. So just unbelievable. Yeah.
Which makes me think that they just can't keep all that under wraps, and so maybe it becomes they go ahead and just say, all right, fine, this is happening in episode 3. This is the director or whatever, But point being that who knows what happens after that, right? Is this going to be a battle that they fend off the Night King and now they have to face Cersei, or they lose to the Night King and retreat to King's Landing, or who knows what happens next. All this basically wondering about what could happen to that sword. It seems like if Jorah's wielding it there on the cusp of a battle, it's probably not getting broken down into more swords, but there might be many more battles, and so maybe it will. So
you're right. What do we think in general about this battle? Like the basic, not necessarily who lives, who dies, but are we kind of all thinking that humanity's going to lose this battle? As in they'll lose Winterfell? Winterfell will be captured, overrun, potentially?
I am, just so you know. I was holding back on talking about it too much. I was going to let other little bits of our analysis unfold, but I think it's going to be a lost battle.
Yeah. Seth Wilkins here, Super Chat, says Arya can't find the tunnels out of Winterfell. Maybe that's what she's trying to do, is look for a way out rather than try to find people or whatever. Maybe she's trying to escape, which it's an interesting idea.
The lone survivor.
But Lady Gwyn, we didn't get your take on the battle. What do you think the overall result will be? Just from a high level, maybe not specifically who lives, who dies, but
yeah. I never thought that would be the case. From the book's perspective, I always thought that the Battle of Winterfell would be the battle that decided it all. Winterfell, it would be where Winter was defeated. I think that's where the last long night ended. I think it would make a lot of sense for this to be a battle where they're turned back. But if it's happening this early in the season, I don't know. I mean, it could certainly be a loss, and I guess we'll have to see.
Speaking to that point of yours, which may be that they're turned back. Let's entertain the notion that the humanity wins this battle and turns back the others. That would potentially indicate the rest of the season would be hashtag for the throne, which is what Game of Thrones has been pushing, HBO has been pushing, which is always to book readers, it seems a little odd because it doesn't seem like that's really what this is about. Like, for the throne, this is for the living. Seems to be more important here.
For what it's worth, in my more unsullied take, I also feel like the whole time that the crux of this whole story is that all this conniving and politicking in King's Landing is just mistaken effort. The real threats are elsewhere, Yeah,
and I've been saying that at the beginning. Like, people like Osha say that exact thing, very early in the series, and people like Geor Mormont says, "Does it matter who sits?" Like, that's super early seminal line.
Yeah.
Does it matter who sits the Iron Throne when dead things come hunting in the night? Like, that's one of the best lines, and it really says a lot here too. So I agree. That's kind of tricky. On the other hand, there's definite reason to think that there will be showdowns later. We all probably still think Clegane Bowl is happening, and for that to happen, how is the mountain's not going north? That has to happen in the south, right? I mean, I think I just really don't see the mountain coming north at all.
I don't see Cersei moving, so therefore I don't see him moving. Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be that the others are defeated in advance of a more human climax. Yeah. Good one, Aziz. No pun intended. No, I'll own that. Pun intended. Sure. Yeah, why not? I'll go there. So let's see, a couple other questions here. We got a super chat from Jennifer Taylor, who says, will we get an answer on who Azor Ahai is? Azor Ahai, or will we see the real Lightbringer? That's a tough one. Lady Gwyn, you want to field that one?
Yeah. I mean, yes, we'll get an answer on who Azor Ahai Reborn is here, I think. Or at least maybe an answer or a semblance of an answer that we can argue about.
Something that sheds more light on the prophecy in a way that just answers more, asks more questions. Yeah, that would make sense.
I think the real Lightbringer, and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit more later when we talk more about swords and forges and stuff. But the real Lightbringer is going to be a sword that is forged for this purpose. I don't think it's a sword necessarily that currently exists or is transformed somehow for this.
I like that idea that a sword is going to be transformed. Yeah,
I think the real Lightbringer is the friends we made along the way. Super chat from Stephanie Vale. No question. Just wanted to say thanks for doing this. Well, thanks for being here. This is super fun. You know, we obviously had to kind of move some things around to make this happen on the spur of the moment, but we are super. It was a labor of fun to do it. So yeah, we're happy. So I just want to say something kind of funny from a very high level meta perspective, like old school Game of Thrones fan. It's been since '96. The things are going to happen in the crypts in a climactic fashion has been around since 1996, because John's dreams in the first book have stuff like that, like the kings awaking from their grave. So back when people only had one book to theorize on, that was a theory, and it's only been 23 years since that book came out. So people have been, obviously, Game of Thrones, the book, has been theorized over and over. So people did not miss John's dreams there. So I just think it's kind of funny that theory has been, after all this time, it's been semi-confirmed by a trailer. A trailer of all the things.
53-second trailer.
Yeah. I'm not mad. I just think it's funny because I mean, it's not a surprise. We did a video on the Crypts of Winterfell, and we're pretty sure something's going to happen in the books and show, and it's cool.
I think I've spent about 53 minutes watching that 53-second trailer.
Me too. I'll tell you, earlier today I was watching it, watching it, and my husband in the other room says, "Why don't you do something productive?" And I said,
"Hey, now
I'm studying this for later." He's like, "Oh, right, sorry." He thought I was just literally sitting there watching, wasting time.
So a couple more. We had a couple more questions here, and then I've got something really exciting I wanted to mention here as well. That it's kind of a funny coincidence. Catherine Harding's super chat, some love for the content, and of course the shirts. For people who are watching on podcast, I have a Star Wars Night's King, Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen mashup shirt. Sean has a 2K19 shirt, and Lady Gwyn has an Ice and Fire Con shirt. And that's a good segue to mention.
Shout out to Game of Owns, by the way.
Yes, shout out to Game of Owns. Shout out to Ice and Fire Con. You can see all of us there. Ashea, Sean, Yoke Boy. As I'm pointing at Sean, I said Yoke Boy. Me.
He has a beard now.
Yeah.
Sort of.
And Lady Gwyn as well. So all five of us, and plenty of other people, and it's going to happen during the season. You'll get to watch an episode with us, and it might be the third episode, which would be this battle that we're potentially describing here. That might be the one we all get to watch together. So
I should point out another potential is that this battle may last more than one episode.
Hey, good point.
If they took that long to film it toward the end and then follow up in the next episode. So just a thought.
That's not something they've done before, but I can't say it's impossible. You're right. Lady Gwyn, you got something to say?
I do. I'm raising my hand like I'm in school. This is a good time to bring up the Entertainment Weekly article.
Oh yes,
by James Hibbard.
This was the coincidence I was saying I was excited to talk about. Go for it. Go.
Yes, in which he talks about the making of this. You've already mentioned how long it took them to film this and the nighttime. So he had this great article breaking down the hardships and how long it took to make this. And one thing that was very interesting about this segment I found is that he said it was, even in cinema, Miguel Sapochnik, who's the director for that episode, tried to find a longer battle sequence in cinema history, and he could not. It even surpasses the 40-minute Helm's Deep siege in Lord of the Rings Two Towers.
And people are giving this battle Helm's Deep vibes with the people huddling in the crypts, so yeah.
Yeah, which apparently Miguel Sapochnik did indeed study the Helm's Deep to get some insight onto how to present a battle to prevent people from getting battle fatigue as viewers.
And what's the thing that's a coincidence here is that I read that same article and got excited and sent it to the quote to Sean where he says, the best thing to do in a long battle scene is to have as little action as possible. Yeah. Which was awesome because Sean and I are both like, we blow that horn. Sean more than me even, but we love it's the things that happen during battles that aren't action are the best things, right? It's the tension. It's Sansa and Cersei waiting inside, not knowing what's going to happen. It's all that's because a lot of times, although to be fair, I think this has more potential than most because a lot of the problems with TV and movie battle scenes is the lack of tension. I don't think Jon Snow's going to die in battle, but Jorah, Davos, Theon, Grey Worm. So the tension is going to be real. So I think the action is going to be a higher level because the tension is going to be pretty legit.
You know, a little, I don't know, tangents I want to point out here. Richard Donner, who's done a lot of...
That's
he's a great director.
That's Barrick, right? Oh, no, that's Richard Dormer.
Yeah, Richard Donner. He's a director. He's done so many movies. He did the Scrooge with Bill Murray. He did the original Superman, Christopher Reeve Superman. He did Goonies, on and on and on. But he also did The Omen, Gregory Peck horror movie in the 70s. Oh. It's the biggest movie that year, by the way. It came out in the wake of The Exorcist. And when he made that movie, he studied how audiences watch horror movies so that he could time how long to wait between, the moment of impact or violence, the door opening or the whatever it is. Oh,
how long to draw out the suspense?
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And at this director, same thing. He studied how people watch battle sequences, so he knew how to what kind of tempo and pacing to maintain. Because you do kind of zone out. It's kind of on my mind, especially I've been watching all the adventure movies recently, and what was it? Winter Soldier. There's these 3 super aircraft carriers you have to take down. And so it takes 30 minutes for them to do this. And I'm just bored with it. If it had just been one aircraft carrier, you know what I mean?
Speaking of lack of tension,
exactly.
The graphics are amazing, but nobody is in any danger. They don't even come out of that with a cut on their face. They don't even have a bruise.
They did. He had a cut.
He had one cut? Okay, cool. All right, one cut. That's they're leveling up there, I guess. They don't have too much blood on screen. It's PG-13.
I think the action is so much more meaningful, when you care about what's happening, and when it's a highlight moment, not a continuous moment,
Yes.
And add to that too, at some level they're limited by the physical abilities of the performers. They can't. They're only so skilled with these swords. They can only be so dangerous with their moves and everything.
I guess that's one of the things that's special about Game of Thrones is some of these actors have had seasons and seasons and seasons of training now. They're actually Jon Snow is Kit Harington's probably pretty sweet with a sword.
Yeah, he probably actually is. Yeah,
he's probably pretty good. Yeah, I wouldn't want to fight him. A couple more questions from the chats here. Alexandra Sandu says, but what does it mean to say that Winterfell will fall? It's not like the Night King will take over the castle and leave guards there. Yeah, he's not going to have a garrison or anything. Yeah, it's true. All he needs is the dead. What use has the Night King for the castle? I suppose he's just driving the humans out of their shelters. If the Night King's goal is to just, which we don't know what it is, but let's assume it's killing as everyone, then you got to kill them where they are. If they're in the castle, you got to go in the castle to get them. Wherever they are, you got to get them. I'm not sure it's any more complicated than that, but if it is, we may be learning about that. This would be the time for us to learn about it.
So here's my, I'm going to say bold, maybe unlikely, but potential prediction. I can imagine it being easy to blow this off as no, that's silly, but this is what I think is possible.
Good caveat there.
Okay. So we see everyone lined up outside, ready for this battle. We see the hoof of the Night King's horse appear. We're ready for this showdown, right? In my mind, though, 2 dragons sweeping across all these undead. I mean, maybe they can't kill everything, but just think about how much the dragons dominated the Lannister armies, right? And
it is a little puzzling. Yeah, how are they gonna?
So
more ice lances and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe the Night King has some way to take them out. Maybe they're already elsewhere. We see them flying through those canyons. Maybe they're on some kind of scouting mission, and that's when the Night King shows up, and they're not there for some reason. I don't know how.
Well, I don't think that could be the case because we see Jon in the battle. Remember, we see him on his horse. We see him running through the flames.
Right.
He's not on a dragon, and it's at night. And that scene where they're flying the dragons around is during the day.
Right, but Jon didn't look like he was on one of those dragons.
That's what I'm saying, but he was clearly at the battle.
What I'm saying, the dragons could be off in the north doing something. Who knows what?
Yeah, that's
and
possible.
then the Night King shows up. They just be hunting.
Well, the thing is, though, the problem with that idea is that we see Jon and Dany go to the dragons in the daytime.
Right.
So, did Jon not get on Rhaegal at that scene? The prevailing theory for those scenes, I think, and I agree with it. I'm certainly open to other ideas. That's Jon learning to ride his dragon.
Yep.
He's just he's going on a test flight.
It could still all jive. He could go on a test flight. Then they come back. They go talk to the troops. Wow, Sansa, I rode a dragon. It was so awesome. In the meantime, the dragons go hunt for food. Then the Night King
but they're
shows up.
clearly being fed. I mean, you see that pile of food. They're being fed. I don't think they need to go hunting.
What do you think they're doing or flying around in the caverns?
like I already said, they're practicing. It's Jon's first flight. He's learning how to fly.
John was on them? I didn't look like he was.
It's hard to tell, but yes, that's a strong theory. I mean, he's going to have to, if he's going to ride a dragon, he's not just going to jump on it and go to a battle right away. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm not sure about any of this. It's not really the point I wanted to bring up, and we can talk about that more when we get to those images.
Right on.
But what I wanted to say is that if in this moment when the forces are all lined up outside and the Night King is showing up front, and we're expecting this battle, which it seems like the dragons would be very helpful for, but maybe they just don't show us. You're right.
Yeah, but, absolutely. I mean, that's probably where all the fire is coming from in those scenes.
Well, this is what I'm leading up to. Okay. What if in the crypts the dead arise, come up through the interior while everyone's outside? I even had the thought that what if
that's definitely a strong.
The Night King could take a page out of Jaime's book and just go south and just bypass Winterfell altogether. That's where all the armies are. Let's go attack somewhere else. Maybe a nominal force shows up as a distraction, or maybe they don't even need it to distract them too much if the dead within rise up.
That's true.
And then suddenly everyone has to turn and run back in. We see a picture of Jon and a bunch of troops running through what seems to be the courtyard of Winterfell. Maybe they're running back inside because that's
there
where
is
the
a
threat
scene where it
is,
does look like they're running back inside. I agree.
And maybe dragons have to burn Winterfell. Maybe the dragons have to burn Winterfell down just to kill all the zombies that have overtaken it.
Huh. I don't know that their flame would be able to destroy the walls, but I think, something like destroying all the non-stone structures and burning.
Yeah, but there's flames all around in all those battle sequences. There's flames all around.
You're right. There is a lot of flame out there, and there's not, it's just this scrubland out front of Winterfell. It's like flat ground. Like, what else is going to be burning? I mean, besides those siege engines that we see.
Yeah, maybe they don't completely level it, but they might just have to swoop over and breathe fire into the courtyard and just...
Whether or not your theory is accurate, I completely agree that it's puzzling to see how the dragons play a role in that battle, and that they should play a role in that battle. Yeah. Yet it's hard to see where. What do you think, Lady Gwyn? What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think obviously a very good question. If they're lining up to face off like that, where are the dragons, and where are the two dragons? Where's the ice dragon? What's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the undead dragon? Yeah,
they're obviously not showing us everything. There's more to this, but as far as the idea of the dead rising in the crypts, I think that is definitely a possibility. In the books, you get these very significant mentions about the iron swords on the crypt statues, keeping the dead spirits from walking. Theon thinks about it, and a lot is made about those iron swords on the laps of the dead kings. But first of all, there's 3 swords missing in the books. I think they took swords in the show as well. In the books, it's Brandon, Rickard, and some old king.
Yes.
Right. But, there's more recent dead that aren't going to have swords. Like you were saying, Littlefinger. If he's there, he got killed at Winterfell. If he's there, down there, stuck in some crypt or
think they'd be
tomb
smart
somewhere.
Enough to burn his body, but maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. And then what about all the other kind of ancient dead? There's tombs. There's swords that have crumbled away to rust. There's people who were presumably buried down there but weren't kings and so didn't have swords and whatever. Anyone else who has died recently since Mikken was killed and they didn't have a smith. There could be God knows how many dead bodies that are raisable, if that's a word.
Yeah, raisable. Yeah, that's
raisable.
RPG
And so isn't that that's a wonderful segue to talking about the fact that the crypts seem to be kind of a safe haven. Like they've got people. There's an image of people sheltering in the crypts, women and children and eunuchs sheltering in their crypts. So they'll be the first ones to go, sadly. If this happens.
That leads us to a question that we have here from Jamie McKenna. Is it wise to have the women and children holed up in a crypt full of the dead when the enemy raises the dead? Well, maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. I think when it's all said and done, I think they're going to be like, oops, yeah, that was a terrible idea.
Oops.
But, yes, please. Yeah, Shay's going to put that image on. And as we can see here, Varys looks really terrified, like something is actively happening. Like they're not just waiting. It's like, hey, go hole up down there and weather it out. Like he's hearing not like something anticipation.
Yeah, he's a little freaked out.
And you can see, I think something that a lot of people missed is in this shot, you can see Gilly far to the left, holding little Sam apparently. So, that's Worry about Gilly, worry about little Sam, and Varys. We've been saying Varys is doomed for a while, and really, I mean, he's right at the top of the list of the dude doesn't run fast, I don't think.
What
he
would
doesn't
make
know
you
how to fight? I am.
What would make you think that he's in danger? Was there some foreshadowing about
Did Melisandre not just say you're gonna die? I can see the future, and you're gonna die. Yeah, well, and so am I. But hey. Okay, more super chats here. Monkismo says, please speculate on characters not seen in the trailer, like Yara. Cheers from North Carolina. We have a whole section of that coming, so we'll actually get to that. We'll be coming to that as we go through the characters. We'll end with characters that we didn't see.
Real quick, I did want to make another quick point, by the way.
Okay.
Keep in mind the nature of how the undead army works. If you have a troop of 2,000 versus their troop of 2,000, and you are so good, you get 2-to-1 kills. And so you kill all 2,000 of them, and only 1,000 of your soldiers die. And then the Night King raises everyone from the dead. Now it's even.
Yeah, now they're back.
Right? So if you do it again, you kill all 1,000 of them, and you only lose 500. Then he raises again. Now it's 500 to 500. Like, that's another thing that might happen to cause Winterfell to fall apart. They feel like they've won, and all of a sudden they have to fight their own people again. And they feel like they won again, and all of a sudden.
There's something that you may have forgotten there, which is that they established at the end of last season that if you kill a White Walker, it kills all the ones that it raised. So you can regain that advantage if you take out
the head.
You have to take out the head of the
zombie.
Yeah.
So you're right, but because those little walkers are often way in the back, they're not in the thick of it. Sometimes they're in the thick of it, but usually there's like the Night King is always like standing in the back, and he's always got some of his buddies sitting there with him. So I think you're right, but that caveat's important.
Leader from
the back. Yes, the Night King. Yes, the Tywin King, the Night Tywin. Just one word.
Night Tywin. Lead from the rear. Yeah.
Vampirus99 says, do you think that Gendry will reforge ice? I'm going to say yes, but like in the last episode or something like that, like some sort of end thing, not to fight with it, because that's the opposite of having more blades to fight with. Combine them into one, and Ned never fought with ice. Very few Starks ever probably fought with it because it's so big. There's probably a few that did, because there may be a few tall guys out there. And you get a 6'6" Stark, he could probably wield it, But yeah, I'm gonna guess yes at the end. I'll just keep it simple. Like, what do you think, Sean?
I don't think so.
Okay, what do you think, Lady Gwyn?
Well, I've started to think that the narrative significance of ice being reforged into 2 blades might be the need to have more Valyrian steel blades. So, kind of maybe not, but then again, I can't tell you how excited I was to see Gendry at a forge, because Yolkboy and I, and probably a lot of people over the years, have talked about what Gendry's significance is going to be in light of the fact that, you lose Donald Noy and at the Wall and Mikken at Winterfell. So you're really missing Smiths. So to have Gendry come in as a character who's known, has this talent or this ability to forge weapons, and he has done his apprenticeship with Tobo Mott, he may have some knowledge that we're as yet unaware of about Valyrian steel blades, forging Valyrian steel blades.
This new resource to work with, also the obsidian, right?
Yes, and so this feeds into a theory that we had posed way back in our 8th or 9th episode a long time ago about the nature of the original Lightbringer, in that it may have been a blend of Valyrian steel and obsidian.
Yes, and I totally agree with that theory, by the way. Totally agree,
so
100%.
So here you got Gendry, who knows maybe something from Tobo Mott, or maybe Sam is there and brought some kind of knowledge from his researches in the Citadel. And
he brought books with him.
Yeah, so maybe there's just some lost or secret knowledge about Valyrian steel forging, and you have clearly got obsidian there, and I think this is very important, that we can't underestimate how important Gendry is.
Cool. Yeah, I agree.
There may even be some symbolic element to ice being split into 2 swords, the Stark family being split into 2 branches or whatever.
Yeah.
If
once
and they're coming back together.
A bunch of little daggers.
Yeah.
They'll make a bunch of tiny little daggers.
Tiny daggers.
Another really funny joke, by the way, from the trailer, that it says, John's voiceover says, "Our enemy does not rest." And then it cuts to Gendry, who spent 3 seasons circling around the road for 3 seasons straight. So he doesn't rest either. And then he ran from, beyond the wall to.
I really hope that was on
Eastwatch.
purpose. I didn't catch that. I'm glad someone caught it, and I really hope it was.
I
That
didn't
was
catch
definite.
it myself. I saw that in the Reddit. I forget. I wish I'd remembered the username to credit them because that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So sorry, Reddit user. I should have credited you, but I forgot. Rebea Lady of Waves asks, I need some hot take predictions. How many episodes will feature direwolves? Yeah. I think I'm going to guess just 1.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be more than 1. There was an interview with some CGI director or something for the show, and he said something to the effect of, there will be a fair share of ghosts.
That sounds like more than 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, it might be 3 scenes in 1 episode. It might be 1 scene in 3 episodes. I don't know how featured he'll be, but he seemed to be like alleviating the concerns. Yes, ghosts will be in it. He'll be featured. They put the budget in or whatever. So.
Okay. Without taking too long, just a quick answer. Will we see Nymeria the Wolf in the final season? Ghost is like a definite, I think, based on what you heard there. But Nymeria.
I'm going to say no.
Lady Gwyn, what do you think?
Yes.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, I would have a hard time believing, if you have some sort of like, and it may not be this one, but I don't know, you have some sort of like battle, like just think about all the like tropes of like final decisive battles and everyone shows up, finally, the people that you forgot about from however long ago are there doing their part.
Even Tysha will show up. Tysha and Lady Stoneheart.
Everyone will be there.
That's who Aria's running from. That's who Aria's running from.
Yeah, right.
By the way, let me clarify. I think we should see Nymeria. I would like to see Nymeria, but I don't think we will.
Yeah.
It's good to set the expectations low there. I kind of tend to agree with Sean that I doubt it, but I have some hope for sure. Ethan Super Chat says at the timestamp of 122 of trailer, could this be Nymeria's wolf pack? I don't think it's a wolf pack. There could be wolves in there though. It looks like mostly horses, but it doesn't have to be all horses. But yeah, you can see like horse tails and hooves. It's hard. It's very hazy, that scene.
Yeah, I definitely watched and rewatched super slow mode that scene, and it's multiple times I thought I saw like what looked like a wolf paw, but then as the angle shifts, I was like, no, that's a hoof. Oh, that's a horse.
It's really hard to tell. So yeah, we can't give a definitive answer on that one, I think. But I think there's definitely reason for optimism there. But I wouldn't take it to the bank just yet. Fred Targaryen's Uncle Daddy, one of the better nicknames, screen names out there. Will Sansa get to eat lemon cakes this season? JK, who cares? Rock on. Wait, we do care. That's going to be also in the final episode. As they're reforging ice, Gendry's going to be reforging ice, and they're all going to be watching, and Sansa's going to be like eating lemon cakes. Like, oh yeah, forge that sword.
Lips as she bites down on
Yeah, it's just going to, it's done. Boom. The show is over. It was all about the lemon cakes all along. Okay, let's move on. Yes, we talked about the forges a bit. That's good. Let's look at real quick. We have Bran and Sam. We have a shot of that Shea pulled. And the key thing here is Sam is turning his head and his breath is frosty, and that's kind of like, they're here. That's kind of the vibe. I don't know if there's anything. It might just be that. I think it's just that simple. But do you guys have anything else to say about that?
I had a similar thought to you at first, but I noticed several other characters breathe out mist through the trailer.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it's just cold.
Yeah, it might just be damn cold. You're right. It is just going to be cold. But
it
it's
could
awfully
be
cold to be indoors, though. I mean,
especially if Bran just told Sam something. You need to go up top.
I worry we won't get enough of Bram talking because there's so much potential for them to talk about. Compare the books to his werewood visions, and I'm setting my expectations low. I want there to be a lot of that, but I don't know that there will be. What do you think, Lady Gwyn?
Yeah, it's same kind of. I think that he'll be done. More in the background. We might get a couple of scenes and. Low expectations, but as far as what's happening there, I don't know. I mean, they could just be the way they patch things together. It could just be a random catch of something, there and not much going on. It's hard to say from their expressions, really.
Yeah, it's such a quick shot. It's almost like they just wanted to make sure Sam and Bran were in the trailer, because people, that's always the thing when there's people not in the trailer. That's sometimes that by itself is telling. So we kind of
where is Theon?
Yeah. Right,
We'll
actually,
later,
we have an idea on that. We'll get to that a little later, though. But yeah, we have an idea on Theon.
I have a couple things I'm a little excited to talk about after 53 minutes of watching that.
And that's about where we are. It's about 6:53, so we're close to halfway here. So plenty more to talk about.
But real quick thing I want to say, however much we do get from Bran, I'm going to predict it's maybe the most speculated on bits of the show. I think that the things he says will get the most scrutiny.
There's so many things he can say too. Yeah. I think the only thing that we're really sure about is that he and Sam will probably in some way or another tag team the news to Jon about his parentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
just this vote.
Go ahead.
Everyone all at once.
Yeah, go ahead, lady. Go.
This voiceover, it really, I think, seems to plays into that. Obviously,
yes.
He's talking to Jon about his being at the right place at the right time. He's talking about prophecy and destiny and Winterfell being his home, which I like the way they timed that with the shot on Winterfell when they said home. Bran said home, but I think the implication being, in light of something we'll talk about probably in a couple minutes that you see next in the trailer, Bran and Sam are telling Jon what his destiny is, or what his background is at this point.
One thing is that just knowing how much Bran knows makes things he says more potentially meaningful. And also the fact that he kind of speaks in riddles, leads to more speculation about what he's saying. Like if Jon says, "I'm going to go to the wall." Okay, Jon's going to the wall. But if Bran says, "One must go to the wall." Like, okay, who knows what the hell Bran means by that? So
it's like the patch face we didn't know we needed.
Patch Bran.
Patch Bran.
Yeah. Wasn't that a Robin Williams movie? Patch Bradams.
Adams. Patch Adams. Patch Face Adams.
Patch Face Adams.
Someone do the mashup.
Oh, that's great. Patch Face Adams. That is
someone at Ice Park.
That is the last person you want at your bedside when you're like, jeez. So, like you wake up and you're like, bah! Who is what? Is this? Am I in like Dr. Mengele's hospital? What is going on here? That is terrifying. Okay, let's see. So another thing this is pretty puzzling to me. Let's talk about the scene with Beric, Ed, and Tormund opening some very big doors with their weapons drawn. Beric's sword is alight, and they look a little concerned. And then a minute later, well, not a minute, the trailer's only 2 minutes long. A few seconds later, Sandor is also holding a torch, looking concerned, and it seems fairly safe to assume that these characters are all together, roughly, because they were last seen together. Although Sandor did actually fly south to go to that meeting at the Dragon Pit, so he might not. Maybe I'm wrong. Actually, maybe he shouldn't be with them. So Sandor maybe is a bit more of a puzzle. But so let's separate that for a second. Let's just talk about Beric, Ed, and Tormund for a second. Because they're with Ed, that potentially means they got all the way to Castle Black. Maybe they just ran across the wall as it was collapsing. And I guess that was something of a cliffhanger. I personally didn't really think that was a cliffhanger, although...
Well, they were last seen
like almost
amidst destruction. Sort of, the wall was falling, and they were on top of the wall. That's the last we saw them.
Definitely.
So if they escaped, they did what you said.
Yeah, they ran. Yeah, there's not like what else they
ran on the top of the wall all the way to wherever they ended.
So what is this place that they're at?
I think, by the way, it was Kim Renfro pointed out that they had to submit the script for Academy. For Emmy nominations or consideration, which made it public, and in that section, it's kind of ambiguous, but it definitely doesn't say they die. It says something they are seen running from the collapsing wall. Okay,
well now we know for sure that they didn't die. That's very clear.
Yeah.
So
confirmed.
So what do you guys think? Where is this? Is this like East? Is this the castle? I don't think it's Eastwatch. Some people think it would be Eastwatch, but why would Ed be there? Why would Ed be at Eastwatch? He was at Castle Black last we saw. So I feel, but I still don't know what the heck this place is. Is it the Night Fort?
The Night Fort?
maybe they're going to the Night Fort. That would be really cool. But I just don't know. I'm kind of.
They go south to Carhold or something like that.
Okay, Shay says south to Carhold, maybe. Yeah, it's. I do not have any guess that really stands out above the others. You know what I mean? Like nothing that says like, yeah, that feels like it could be true.
Wait a minute. In the last season, Jon told Tormund, "Go man this castle." Which castle was that? Remember that? And Tormund's like, "Oh, I guess
we're the Night's Watch now." Well, that was before the wall that part of the wall collapsed, though.
That's true.
Yeah, that was like the first episode of the season.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I don't remember seeing Tormund again after that.
No, they were at the wall. He was running as the wall collapsed.
Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep,
so
I'm just confused.
So I don't know. Do you have any ideas, Lady Gwyn? What do you think, Night Fort, or do you have any other thoughts?
No, I mean Night Fort. If they're anywhere that's not Castle Black, I guess the Night Fort. Maybe.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I feel like they'd leave the wall. Why would they stay at the wall?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Why would they stay at the wall? Like the enemy is south, but maybe they're looking for something.
Maybe they have. Yeah, maybe there's some message or something that they can find or so.
They can't leave the wall. They gotta fend off the Snarks and Grumpkins. Sweet.
That's right.
They're not involved in the politics of the South. You guys deal with the Night King.
Yeah,
they're like, phew, at least we don't have to deal with that guy anymore.
It's like they're somebody else's problem now. Yeah, we did our best, but we can't stop an undead dragon. Come on, guys. That's just not within our capacity. We hardly have enough food. I mean,
there's like a whole other 698 miles of the wall that still have to be manned after.
Yeah, they're like, come on, guys, we can't leave. Okay, so let's go ahead and move back to Sandor after my little false start with thinking maybe they were together. Now I think that was wrong. I don't think they are together. Lady Gwyn, you took a lot of notes here on Sandor, so let's let you run with this for a minute.
Yeah. So, I mean, my interpretation of this scene, I don't know where it is because I actually couldn't remember, and maybe somebody, if you guys can't remember, maybe someone in the chat can. Where was Sandor the last time we saw him? Was he in King's Landing?
He was in King's Landing. Remember, he's the one who carried the
right.
The
yeah. So presumably was he then on the boat with Jon? So would he be with Jon and Dany?
Going back home. Yeah, back to North. Yes.
I mean, is he at Winterfell? But
I think so, but we didn't see him except unless
anywhere
maybe
else but this.
Maybe that is the battle. Maybe he is in the battle because there is fire and
there's fire. So the key point is that there's fire. So my interpretation of that shot is he's hanging around a corner and there's fire and a lot of it around the corner, and that is his number one biggest fear. And he looks kind of resolute, and I think maybe he's gonna go save someone, at which point my head exploded and I started hyperventilating because what if someone who knows what the someone could be? What if it's Sansa?
Yeah, save Sansa from the fire. Oh man.
My goodness.
That there's some feels there for sure.
Back down to earth. In terms of Sandor's character, if we go all the way back to the Blackfire, it was fire that broke him in that case, and caused his whole sort of wandering in the wilderness segment, if you will. So if here he faces his fears successfully and he does something heroic, like what a huge leap in character growth for him.
And it would really be a payoff if he has that growth right before he goes to face the mountains in the south.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, cool. So if he faces almost his biggest fear, because what are his two biggest fears? Fire and his brother. His brother is the one that caused the fear of fire. So if he conquers his fear of fire, and that's done, he'll
also be like, yeah, I've already faced the dead quite a bit too. So
where's the Night King, undead dragon?
Dead things don't bother me anymore.
Bring it on, bro.
If they're dead things on fire, then he's afraid of them. But other than that,
right. Yeah.
That's cool. And you also mentioned that there's some juxtaposition with Jaime here with his voiceover.
Jaime's voiceover at this point is him talking about keeping promises, and I was trying to think of how that might be significant to Sandor, because I feel like there are significant promises in his arc that he has to keep, possibly with Aria, with Sansa, definitely with his. He's got unfinished business with his brother.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of that theme left to go in his arc. So I think the way they grouped the voiceovers is significant, and we should definitely be looking at, how these characters fall under those sort of themes. So this one, I liked it.
Well said. Well said. Do you have anything to add to that, Sean, or should we move on?
No, we can move on.
All right. Next shot we have is of what looks like the Winter Town, which is a really cool thing to see. We haven't. It's something that's kind of vaguely mentioned here and there. Even in the books, we don't get a look at it, so it's cool to get a shot like this. It's a very beautiful image too, because you can see, if you look in the distance, you can see how long this march is. The army stretches all the way up there, and clearly Winterfell in the distance. So, on the other hand, this is very sad because almost all of these commoners are super, super doomed, and I get Carsey vibes here, where you're going to get introduced to some nice little happy commoners, happy like day-to-day type folk, just to see them die. Do you guys think that's it, or you think there's more to it, or
I think there's a little more
cynical?
to it,
okay,
just to see them die and come back again.
Oh yeah, make it even worse. Yeah, see them as undead. Yeah, to put some faces on some of those undead to make them more, make it hurt more. Yeah, you agree with that, Lady Gwyn?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at first, when I first saw that, I must have watched it probably 10, 12 times trying to figure out who that person was. I thought it was someone that I recognized, but then finally had to just arrive at the conclusion that it is just some person. Like you said, it's just going to be some random person who's introduced, probably just to be a red shirt and
yep,
zombie red shirt. So.
They like gray shirts in this story. So we get a lot of shots of armies on the move, kind of lining up or preparing. One in particular is Jon and Dany riding together, which is a little bit interesting that they come in on horseback. Well, particularly Dany coming in on horseback is interesting. It's less notable that Jon is doing so. We see Sansa seeing the dragon, or actually, Sean, the way you put it.
Yeah, the dragons see Sansa for the first time.
We have the perspective all wrong on this. It's not Sansa seeing the dragons for the first time. It's the dragons seeing Sansa like, ooh, look at her.
The hero of the story.
Yeah. Wow. Her hair is so red. So then we get Aria looking up, presumably seeing the dragon. That's that shot from the teaser from before. We have maybe Tyrion looking up at the dragons, although it's not the first time he's seen them. So I'm not really sure what... I mean, that's for me, that Tyrion moment of him looking up was just like what we were saying with Sam and Bran. It's just like, make sure he's in the trailer. Don't have no Tyrion. But there's just like, I can't get anything out of that Tyrion shot. He's just looking up. It's daytime. That's all we got. I don't know. There's not much you can read into that. He's in the trailer. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I would, not that it's particularly meaningful, but I just assume pretty confidently he's just in the courtyard of Winterfell looking up at two people talking to each other. We've seen that type of shot many times, people up on the, I don't know what the rafters, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but the platform circling the courtyard of Winterfell. We've seen characters above looking down and people down looking up, multiple times we've seen that sort of interaction.
And now it looks like, Lady Gwyn, you had a few more thoughts on this Arya shot.
Yeah, I just think that's definitely later. I think the Sansa one is definitely the arrival, because she's looking out and I think she's seeing the army coming in, and I think that's when the dragons kind of arrive. I think the Aria one is probably later. It's outdoors. She's with people. She seems to be surrounded by small folk, wildling, refugee type people. And I would pair this one up with the shot that goes through the snow canyon, and particularly with the speculation that Jon might be riding a dragon at that point, because in this case, I think that her facial expression supports her kind of, seeing like there's her brother riding a dragon. Like, geez, and the Sansa one, I think, is more just her wonder at seeing the dragons for the first time. There are some shots of Sansa later where I think she may be seeing that.
Okay.
People riding, but I think...
Yeah, we got a comment here that Storm of Spoilers, shout out to Storm of Spoilers, pointed out that maybe it's not Sansa's first time seeing the dragons in this shot. Maybe she's realizing Jon and Dany are riding the dragons. Maybe that's just seeing their... Well, it wouldn't be Dany's first flight, but Jon's first flight. That's possible. That comment from Stephanie Vale. Thanks for that, Stephanie. That's definitely on the table as an option.
Yeah, I did think that when Sansa, the look on her face when I first saw the trailer, was, I'm going to say, concerned or distraught maybe, but looking at it again more closely in slow motion 14 times, I think it looks more like impressed or maybe relieved, maybe even like she's like, oh wow, this is something to work with here, you know.
Now that's a help. Yeah, like now that's gonna help.
Good job, John. Yeah.
And there are some really, speaking of the dragons and all these reactions, there are some awesome, beautiful shots of them over Winterfell and over the trees and in that canyon. I know Shay's got some of these shots. Some of them she's maybe already put up, but dragons in the snowy canyon. We talked about that a bit. It's hard to tell whether anyone's riding them in those scenes. It's very difficult to tell. And then there's the scene where they're approaching the dragons with this piles of bones around them, which that's really cool because it reminds us of something that a lot of TV shows don't have time for, which is dealing with logistics. And Sean, I know you had some thoughts on just the dragons they eat a lot. Food is scarce, and they need a lot of food, and that's something we talked about in our Fire and Blood coverage as well. Is like when there were all those dragons, like man, dragons have just been bringing in, boatloads of sheep constantly to keep up with that. I mean, you hear stories of like a dragon eating a whole bull for breakfast. Like whoa. And on the other hand, these dragons are not that old, but still, you can see from that pile that they have been eaten. Yeah. So that's a great shot. Yeah. So you guys, what are your thoughts on some of these just kind of dragon-y shots, dragon images? A lot of this we've talked about already, but let's try to wrap up the dragon talk. Lady Gwyn, you go first.
I had thought, well, first of all, and a lot of people have noticed this when they walk up to the dragons, Drogon is over here on Dany's side, Rhaegal's on Jon's side. Obviously, that's what leads people to think this is going to be, writing lesson number one, maybe. That is where this sort of images I was just talking about with Sansa is different from the ones where she's standing on the wall walk at Winterfell. She may be in a similar vantage point, but that scene cuts from and then to Sansa watching something else, maybe, but maybe this, as she looks kind of sad or concerned. She definitely doesn't have the same kind of look of wonder that Aria has. So it was just an interesting pairing. And again, it could be the trailer showing things that are totally unrelated the way they do to make, to throw you off the scent. But I had some thoughts about Drogon, the shot of Drogon breathing fire, but I think actually I can defer those to later because they actually fit with something else as well. So.
Okay, yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Sean, did you have anything to add to that, or should we move on to how Jon finds out that he gets to ride a dragon?
Nothing particular, just the missing of the ice dragon. That's the only thing I would.
In terms of characters we didn't see in the trailer, not only do we not see the ice dragon, but nor do we see the Night King himself. That's why I put him on my shirt today, just to remind you guys what he looks like, because I know you've forgotten. It's been a year and a half now. Okay, so let's talk about Jon in the crypts with Dany. Jon with the brood. He is a master brooder. This is the peak brood, right? This is super broody. Like he's been practicing for 8 seasons, 7.5 seasons, just to get to this brooding moment.
This is his moment.
It's never brooded harder. So,
you just reminded me of this. It's the MST3K guys. Doing Top Gun, and it's after I can't remember Tom Cruise's partners. I don't know if I'm spoiling Top Gun for everyone out there, but he dies. And Tom Cruise is like mourning, and the guys like MST3K in it. They're like act, brood.
Act. I have actually not seen Top Gun, so that was a spoiler.
Oh my god!
Oh no!
I don't care, but it was.
I ruined it for you.
Yeah, well,
you ruined the fact that Tom Cruise is not going to brood well in that movie.
He does okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think Tom Cruise is fine. So, Lady Gwyn, so tell us your thoughts of this about this peak brood. So, are we all in agreement that this is probably him getting news, his parent news?
Yeah.
Like, there's obviously other possibilities, but like. It's got to happen before he can ride a dragon. And all the people who know are right there in the castle with him.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is this scene per se.
Really?
I think it will happen.
Well, what is it
this
then?
seems related.
Okay, by the way, I want to add that some people who've taken a really close look have noted that there is a tear in his eye.
Really?
Yes, which it's hard to imagine him crying about something other than that, but not impossible. So what do you think it is then? You don't have to have an idea. Like, you don't have to say, oh, it's this instead. Just to believe that it's not that, you don't have to have another idea. But if you do, let us
I mean, my idea is it's just a shot, just a scene, just a conversation. You know what I mean?
Why is he down in the crypts?
He's just going to be down in it's just who John's. Just who the Starks just go to the crypts.
He's looking at, however, as Lady Gwyn points out, he is looking at Lyanna.
Yeah.
Which would be his mom. Yeah. Why is he looking at Lyanna?
Right, to be clear, I'm not like adamantly, that's what this is. It just wasn't my instinct.
Okay, well, let's let Lady Gwyn run with it then, because she does believe that this is the case, and let's see what she has to say. Go for it.
Yeah, I think, and it's, I would say maybe this scene comes after. I don't think necessarily, because Bran is probably the person that's going to tell him, and at this point, Bran might still be upstairs. They probably haven't carried Bran down into the crypts for this reveal moment, so if this is post reveal, and so Jon goes down here and stands in front of Lyanna to brood about what he's just learned,
or to cry over the fact that he banged his aunt.
Cry, or to just be like,
oh my god,
what am I
slept
doing
with
my life? It's all a lie. I'm having sex with my aunt. I'm so confused.
I thought I was dead. Like, I'm not even supposed to be here. I got to use that joke 2 days in a row.
So that's what I think is happening there. I also think, and I want to know if you guys had any thoughts about this. I didn't. There was a shot right at the very beginning. It would be like a screener from the very first moment when they show Jon standing in front of Lyanna's statue. It looks like there's someone else standing there. Maybe could be the statue, but I thought it was dark fabric, and the statues are more gray, and they're stone, obviously. So
okay, I missed that. I thought it was a statue also, but yeah.
I didn't know if there was someone else kind of standing there who may have, backed off once Dany. It was when Dany was walking in. You kind of see. So
okay,
I don't know. I could be wrong. And
another thing that I would question myself on, but it looked to me, and it easily could just be the lighting or the angle, but it looked like there was one scene of Dany approaching Jon from behind, and she has like a blue dress, bluish. But then the shot, as she comes up to him from the front, it looks like at least the top portion is more white. Now, again, it could just be the lighting and the angle, but
I was pretty sure that was just the fur mantle that was covering it.
But I don't think it's crazy for them to have like 7 or 10 scenes down in the crypts.
7 or 10? That would be well.
Maybe not that many.
Count the fighting scenes,
but I doubt it's just going to be one scene in the crypts. I fully expect there to be multiple moments of them going down to the crypts. So.
I think I disagree, but I could see that. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Now we have Brood 2, Electric Boogaloo, excuse me, with Jon staring at the werewood, which is like, geez, this is like
the broodwood.
He needs to
the broodwood tree.
He needs to brood both indoors and outdoors, apparently. And Lady Gwyn, you had a thought on this, right?
In which he is exactly like his father. He's the father that raised him, not the father that sired him.
Yes.
Good old Ned Stark, who brooded next to the weirwood and then brooded in the crypts. But seeking the godswood is absolutely just like something Ned would do. And I think going and sitting in front of Lyanna's statue is something that Ned would do. So in both of those scenes, I got a very, very strong Ned Stark vibe from Jon.
Right on. Yeah. Which fits in with the kind of expectation that Jon is going to embrace his Stark heritage over his Targaryen heritage. That's a bit more of a important theme for the books, but it's going to matter here too, I think. He's not just going to be like, oh, I'm Targaryen. Okay. He's still got to,
see you later, losers.
I'm going to lunch.
So then we have more brooding. This time it's Dany. Maybe it's more pensive than brooding, but she's got her own moment of kind of, maybe she's like, I banged my nephew? It all comes back to the incest, doesn't it? So Lady Gwyn, you had some thoughts on this one too.
Yeah, well, this is where my thoughts really were just about how the trailer lines things up. I don't think these are all necessarily connected, but there were 3 shots in a row, and it's Dany looking pensive, and she closes her eyes, kind of the way you do, like if maybe you're thinking about something unpleasant, or you've just done something that's making you very sad. Then you see that only shot of Tyrion. So it's Dany, and she's like, oh, and then Tyrion is like looking up, and then Drogon blasting fire. But I think they want us to think that Dany's going to burn Tyrion, but I also think that is a trick, which we've seen many times in these trailers. Not what's going to happen. But did you guys get the feeling that that's what they were going for?
A little, but I think it's quickly, if you look at the lighting in the scene, Tyrion is standing in daylight and Drogon is in darkness. So I think that those scenes don't connect directly. So I agree with you. Yeah, it might be a trick, but if it was a trick, it maybe wasn't the best trick because of the lighting. So it kind of gives it away. But you're right. I think that's probably what they were going for. And in general, there's a lot of shots of the lining up for this battle that we spoke about earlier at night. There's a shot of Davos on the battlements pacing. There's all these shots of the Unsullied. You can see catapults next to them, which, by the way, might be where some of the flame comes from. That's an option for where some of the flame comes from, apart from the dragons. If they're hurling, that would make a lot of sense to attack an army of the undead with flaming catapults, right?
Yeah.
Like, that makes a ton of sense.
It's better. I mean, tell you, I will be frustrated if they don't have flaming arrows and flaming catapult
at
balls
night.
Or whatever.
I mean, please, come on. That would
Not
be
only is it like
whiff.
a weapon they know works, but it also look really cool.
Yeah,
so
seriously.
Yeah, and John knows
failing.
this. John knows this from the Battle of Castle Black. You have to have fire arrows. I mean, you would
gotta have fire arrows. Yeah. We see that shot of Jorah, which we already talked about, where he seems to have Heartsbane. There's Dothraki with him. They look a little more dressed up, which they certainly need to be. They're not used to wearing a lot of clothes. You kind of wonder. Something we talked about before, like how are the Dothraki going to handle cold? It's probably not going to be a thing they spend a lot of time on. And we get an up close and personal shot here that Sean refers to as the nose squisher, which is Melisandre and Grey Worm having their passionate kiss, which I feel is, that does have some last kiss vibes to it. Grey Worm is just such a frontline guy. Like, him surviving seems really tough to see. I don't know. I don't feel great about his odds. What about you guys?
The fact that he's still there at all is like surprising to me.
It's already defied some odds, I think. Yeah.
Sean had an image here, right?
The nose squisher, or did you?
Yeah,
definitely.
I just didn't hear you say that.
Yeah, I did. Cool. Yeah. So this is the shot. I can see their mash. And then one last.
I don't know why it just cracks me up so much.
It's one last nose mash. It's just very loving, right?
Like in the middle of all this intensity and hype and excitement and drama and these characters and this action, I just started laughing when I just saw that.
Maybe they're part Eskimo.
I can see Grey Worm like, oh, careful! I already lost one of my protuberances. I don't need to lose another one.
Watch the nose.
And there's frostbite going around too. Like it's already such a risk. So we have Jaime's voiceover. That's pretty important. It's happening throughout. I forget exactly which scenes it's over, but Lady Gwyn, you had some good notes here because there's a lot of other people whose promises matter. You already talked about Sandor, but there's other ones here too.
Yeah. So I think, on the surface, this voiceover is him referencing his vow to fight for Jon and Dany.
Yeah.
But I suspect that he's speaking to Brienne in this scene. And I wonder if you guys think that as well. I mean, the words echo promises that they've made to each other in the past, in the show and in the books. They've also both made promises to Catelyn Stark about, protecting her daughters or saving her daughters. In other words, promises is a major theme for Jaime and Brienne specifically as far as their arc is together.
Very true.
I would not be surprised if the person he's speaking to is actually Brienne.
That would make sense. I mean, that's got to be a point at some point here in this Jaime's arrival in Winterfell. He's got to convince them that he's on their side. There's going to be a conversation here. Tyrion might help be the segue to help that work.
In fact, that might even be what Tyrion's frustrated look up is, because that's something that kind of speculates that Jaime's going to show up and just be arrested. And then there's going to be this case to be made that he's legitimately on their side.
Yeah, I can see that, especially because Jon's not necessarily in charge. If it's Dany's call, then maybe. But Jon is very much on his attitude has been, I don't care about anyone's crimes. We're fighting the dead. If he can help us fight the dead, he's on our side.
Yeah.
That seems to be his attitude, but he's not in charge anymore.
Yeah.
So you're right that maybe Dany will see it differently. But I think Dany's kind of bought into that attitude as well, but maybe not as fully.
Even if he was in charge, he might, as a default, arrest him when he shows up, and then, okay,
yeah,
let's discuss this, let him go.
There's definitely a shot of him fighting, too. So we know
Yeah.
whatever happens, he gets in the thick of it. We also have...
Tyrion breaks him out of jail. It all comes around.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Then maybe that gets us to why Tyrion gets roasted later, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
I'm not predicting Tyrion gets roasted later.
Maybe he just gets his fingertips roasted off.
Everyone gets each other's wounds. Yeah. Okay, so we have some battle shots. A lot of battle images. Some of them we didn't bother to pull because they're just so hard to tell what's going on. So we've got a few images, but mostly we're just going to discuss them. There's a shot of someone on the battlements doing a two-handed swing that turns into releases the blade at one end and it turns into a one-handed swing. At first we thought it was Jaime because it looked like a left-handed swing, but then we realized it was a two-handed swing and it resolves into the right hand. So it's clearly not Jaime because the sword finishes in the right hand.
Yeah.
So it
Maybe
could be Brienne.
Jaime's got some new skills. Maybe he's
learned to hold his sword in his gold hand.
Yeah.
He's
got the golden grip.
Yeah, and you noticed, Lady Gwyn, that he appears to be Jaime. There's a shot of him maybe yelling no here.
Yeah, so that particular person, which, I looked at it 1,000 times. That's the one I was rewatching when Yoke Boy was getting a little irritated with me. Put my headset in because you kept hearing whatever was going on, and then it segues into this just quick shot of Jaime's face, and I think he's yelling, no! So I wondered if they're connected, if that was Brienne fighting, and then Jaime, or even, maybe if they're not connected and it's Brienne fighting. I can't imagine who else Jaime would be so upset about.
It didn't occur to me that it could be Brienne, but I think now that I think about it, we even took note of the hair, trying to think whose hair was like
someone
that.
With short
That's
hair.
why we thought it was Jaime at first. And they actually do have kind of similar hair.
I also took note of how Brienne's armor, I was so happy that her armor does just give her big boobs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like regular armor. So the more I think about it, I bet that was
Brienne.
Brienne.
It's someone that has the surcoat that comes down and splits, and then I once even could get it to stop on a profile of the person, and there's no reason why it couldn't have been Brienne.
Here's the only counter argument I have. It's not a very strong counter argument, but it does exist. Ashea has this shot of Brienne and Pod and the soldiers lining out front of the battle. That's not the battlements. So Brienne starts this battle out front. So her getting to the battlements is absolutely possible. There's a shot of them what appears to be running back inside. So if they run back inside, she could run up to the battlements. Problem solved. However, that does require her to be right about these other things, about them running back inside, and then she has to go climb back on the battlements. Which
I'm going to take this as further evidence that they have to turn back in. They
have to turn back in and defend the wall. So eventually they try to meet the enemy outside, but ultimately I think they're going to have to try to defend the walls, because this isn't. I think there's one other shot of that might be sort of a wall kind of incursion kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm supposing not just defend the walls, not just go back inside to defend zombies coming up the walls, but defend against zombies inside the walls. They come up through the crypts or something. Yeah.
Wherever they're coming from.
All that, maybe,
The whole place is being overrun.
Agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one I think that we're going to disagree on. There's that shot of a hand tightening around a spearhead. Or a spear shaft, and I think Sean, you think it's Jon, and Lady Gwyn thinks it's Aria. So let's debate that real quickly. Sean, you go first.
Well, I'm not very confident one way or the other, but the scene that immediately follows that is Jon running, and you
looks
can't
like towards
see,
something. Right?
And you can't see. They don't show his left arm. They don't show his left hand. So
you would think he's holding Longclaw, but
and it does look like you can see a hilt of a sword on his hip, but you can't see his left hand, and his right hand comes up in front, and maybe even with a shield. It was really hard to tell. I'm not super convinced or I'm not like trying to prove my point.
Right.
But,
no, it's a theory. Yeah.
But it was the immediate
fair.
follow-up shot. I'm not sure why they would show someone else grabbing a spear, especially in that little moment. So I feel like someone decided every little instant that was revealed here was a careful decision by a panel of people.
Yeah, it's a good trailer. What do you think, Lady Gwyn?
Yeah, so I think it's Aria, and this is after I watched it 100 times. I decided that this goes with that earlier shot where, actually, I mean, it starts with Aria with the broken spear, but then we see the part with her
with it whole,
twirling, and so I think that this is actually
Can we all do a
now
twirl
back
real quick?
to the very beginning of her grabbing the spear. So it's almost like a reversal of that whole Aria sequence. And I based that on looking at the hand grasping the spear. It's not a huge
it's a smaller hand.
But Kit's not a very big guy.
Sure, he's like 5'6" or something. Yeah,
I was like, that's really not that conclusive.
5'6" isn't that small.
Or we didn't say it was small. We said it wasn't big.
Well, it wasn't like a
there is a
Gregor Clegane kind of hand.
Right.
It was not the mountain's hand.
There is a distinct little piece, like a little loop.
Yeah, that like armor
comes off
thing. I was wondering about that too.
Yeah,
the sleeve.
There's a part. It's a part of the person's cuff.
Yeah.
So if you actually, in retrospect, to go back and look at costuming.
I had that idea, but we didn't have time for that.
Yeah, me neither. But that's definitely what that was, I believe.
So this is maybe associated, like as we said, with this what appears to be a scene of them charging towards the gate, which we think is charging back inside, whether to flee or whether to fight the dead who have emerged within. It could be both. So, and Lady Gwyn, you have some notes here about the way these scenes are stitched together, which might give us a clue.
Yeah, I mean, first you see Jon from the front charging with his fire behind him, and then you see him rushing towards the gate. So I think that's kind of the same scene from a different angle, first from the front, then from the back, especially based on the lighting.
Okay.
I think that was Jon in the lead. I was trying to figure out who was with him. I came up with maybe Gendry, somebody that looked like Ed, but I don't really think Ed is there. I was just trying to figure out who. There were a few people that didn't have helmets on, and obviously I assume anyone that has a helmet on is just generic soldier number 1, 2, and 3.
Red shirt.
If they didn't have a helmet on, those are the ones I was trying to figure out.
Yes, it's one of the quirks of Westeros that wearing a helmet makes you less safe. Carrying a shield makes you less safe too. We were joking before the episode about how Jon never, like the main characters never have shields or helmets, and then someone showed it was Amanda Crowfoot's daughter of the Disputed Lands podcast, and she showed an image of Jon with the Mormont shield fighting Ramsay. And she was of course joking because, as we know, Jon goes that entire episode through this long battle without a shield, only to pick one up in the last 3 seconds
to kill the
block
incapacitated person on the ground.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like that's how he uses a shield.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's unless you guys have more thoughts on the north stuff, I think it's time for us to talk about the stuff in the south. We're going to field some questions still, so we will at least still talk about the north a little bit more, but we should focus on the south. We've been up in the north for about an hour and a half now. All right, so let's do that. King's Landing and shots outside of King's Landing are the bulk of what we have outside of the north. One shot we have is Sean had a very good catch here. You see these 3 ships that Ashea is going to put up on screen that appear to be part of the Iron Fleet. They are certainly Greyjoy ships. The obvious answer is that because the immediate next shot is the Golden Company and the leader, Harry Strickland, which is the actor Mark Risbon, standing there in the front, which from behind he looks almost like Jaime or Brienne, but it's clearly not. It's clearly the Golden Company. But what Sean realized is the first shot with the 3 ships is a very good chance it's a different shot than the other. Go ahead and explain that.
Yeah, it's kind of some random coincidences. Like we were watching the thing, Shea had like zoomed in on the image, and I took note of the sort of like like on the front of ships, the peak of the bow. There's often like a dragon or some monster or something, right? And it was like a kraken, a squid type thing. And I looked up an image of Silence because I just remember I love that image so much. I don't know what it is about ships. Maybe it's just Black Sails got me to appreciate it. By the way, Black Sails, great show.
Great show.
And I looked up Silence, and I was like, wait, that's different. On Silence, it's like coming up from underneath, like from the water towards the tip of the bow is this cracked thing.
Plus, it didn't have those sails that were kind of flanked out to the side too. Didn't have those like flat sails down. I think it. Anyway,
maybe
your
I don't
point
quite
is,
remember that.
The point is that it's a different ship.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean maybe Euron's on a different ship. It could be a bunch of things, but in conjunction, all these pieces that put together, that the shot that we see of the ship with the Golden Company in the background, you see at least 4 or 6 other ships. Not
Whereas
just
that one
3.
shot, there's just 3. Yeah,
right.
That's a
And
good
I
guess.
seem to remember Theon showed up with 3 ships to Dragonstone last season, and also Theon wasn't anywhere else in the trailer. Pretty
That
big
could be
omission.
Theon, yeah. Good
So I
catch.
think that was Theon's ship. Now it's
Very
what
good.
he's doing, where it's going, why, who knows? But
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think that's it. I don't. Of course, we have no idea where their ships are, but yeah,
ostensibly going to save Yara.
yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, good point. And speaking of Yara, we have this puzzling image from inside the throne room. It's this big empty throne room, and it really looks like Yara off to the right there, but there's just no way that's Euron, I think. It looks like Harry Strickland, the captain of the Golden Company. So on one hand, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't really fit very well. That would be Yara. So maybe it's just not her. But on the other hand, then, who is that? Who is that woman then? So I'm a bit puzzled.
I don't know. It looks to me that person is wearing a dark robe and some sort of a head covering. It looked to be like one of the not Silent Sisters, but a Septa or something like that. It was that sort of, definitely not what you would normally expect to see Yara in, but it felt female.
Yeah.
And the other person is wearing armor, standing there with their hands behind their back, which could be nothing. It could be just, kind of casual, relaxed hand behind the back, or it could be prisoner-ish hands behind the back.
Yeah.
I couldn't really figure out either way, but there didn't seem to be any distinguishing marks on that person's armor or clothing, and the other person was just all in dark. So
I think that it is Yara, but I am not sure who the other person is, and I also agree it's kind of puzzling the positioning of people standing there. If it is her, she didn't seem like she was exactly prisoner, and it seems weird that she would just be like standing around in a throne room. You know what I mean? I don't know if
with no one else there, it's so empty. You got like the mountain and Cersei, and I don't even know if Qyburn's. I think Qyburn's in that shot.
I think
Qyburn was there. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like 6 people. Yeah.
2 other Kingsguard, Qyburn, the mountain.
By the way, the official name for the non-mountain Kingsguard are hills.
The mountain and the hills.
Yes, that's right. They're hills. They're They're bastards from the west.
Love it.
So we have another image of Cersei, or of Cersei and Qyburn in the mountain and the hills. I'm sorry?
You skipped the Golden Company shot? You never mentioned for me to put it up there.
Oh, okay. No, we didn't. Yeah, we talked about it, but I didn't particularly.
If you do put it up there, it'd be good for people to be able to see the other ships in the background, not just the 2. Also, I did want to point out, in fact, from a cinematic perspective, from a filmmaking perspective, how impressive is that? Just think for 1 second about what it took to get that one shot.
Yeah.
All those troops in uniform.
Is it CGI? I wonder if they're duplicating the soldier over and over or not. I don't know.
Even if it is, do you know how
It's
much
awesome.
effort it is to make that CGI?
Doesn't matter if it is or not. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
They look different, because I was trying to zoom in on individuals.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And they looked like different people.
Yeah.
And they're all there standing at attention on a set of a ship, whichever, is pretty
the conglomerate
impressive.
effort that has to go into putting that together. Someone has to have like an artistic vision. Someone has to piece together the uniforms. Even I'm sure that ship. I'm pretty sure that ship isn't actually on the ocean.
Right.
But
No,
still, they've got to design that set. I mean, I'm just in awe of the production level of this whole show. It's
Plus,
just
those
amazing.
guys had to stand there all the way from Essos on the ship in attention all the way.
Talk about sea legs.
That's perhaps the most impressive part.
Let's see, real quick, a diversion from this King's Landing stuff to answer a super chat. Fred Targaryen's Uncle Daddy again says, what are those legs at the end of the trailer? Now, I guess he's talking about the horse hooves, or is that the final hoof moment? I'm not exactly sure. But I think we talked about the legs a little bit earlier. We're pretty sure they're horses. There could be wolves mixed in there. There's definitely mostly horses, but it could be some wolves mixed in.
That wasn't at the end of the trailer, though.
Yeah, that was the end of the trailer, was the one leg coming down, like the hoof, which is presumably Night King's horse, but it could be one of the other walkers, because he's not the only one that rides a horse. We've seen the other ones ride horses before.
Yeah.
And if
definitely had an undead look about it.
Yeah.
I thought it looked like a Westworld horse.
It did. It certainly had the Westworld trailer vibe. Because didn't that trailer end the same way with the hoof coming down?
Well, I don't remember.
I think it did. I think Westworld did a very similar trailer.
But the idea that you could, there was no skin on the surface. You're seeing like tendons and bone or whatever.
Yes. So let's see. We've got another shot. This shot of Cersei she's dressed down and drinking. And at first, the drinking didn't seem to matter, but then it was pointed out that she refused to drink last season when she was with Tyrion, and that's what clued Tyrion into her pregnancy. The fact that she's drinking and has glassy eyes that looks like she's holding back tears says to me that she lost her baby. There's definitely other possibilities. My first instinct was that she's reacting to Jaime disappearing in the night, which she's going to have to do also. But the wine is pretty telling. You guys have different takes on that, or do you think that's pretty strong?
Maybe, although I wonder if that might be a kind of a chicken and egg thing.
Yes.
If Jaime left and she just kind of loses it.
The stress of
the stress,
of that loss causing miscarriage.
Whatever. Yeah. So
she's got plenty of other stress too.
Yeah.
It's not just that. Yeah, you're right. That's a fair point.
I definitely got a very lonely, desperate vibe out of her the way she's presented there.
Yeah, and she's got to be lonely if Jaime's gone and she loses her baby. That's all she's got is Qyburn in the mountain. Well, come on.
That's it. Every scene of her is her with Qyburn.
Yeah. I mean, she might hook up with Euron, but that's not going to make her happy.
I'll tell you, if I only had two people left standing by my side, the Mountain and Qyburn are pretty good picks. Think about it. Qyburn has had no real failing of any kind.
Yeah, he is pretty competent.
He's never misstepped in any way.
His ethics are questionable, but his skills are not. Yeah.
They're the people she chose.
Yeah, he is good at what he does.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's all. Well,
I was going to say a couple things about talking about Cersei and.
Cool. Yeah.
My first thought, kind of an overall thing, was, let me say, I first thought that she was smiling when I first saw it. That maybe in the first couple times I saw it.
There is a little bit of a smile there.
Yeah. And the other scene, she seemed pretty clearly to be smiling too. When she's at the Red Keep with the mountain and the hills,
dressed up
and
in
Qyburn in the background.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even in that moment, Qyburn seems to be looking at her, and I don't know if distress is quite the right word, but he doesn't exactly look happy or content.
No,
she's smiling. She's standing there smiling, and I think if you think about it, everyone in the trailer is distraught, upset, afraid, running, concerned. Except for Cersei. She's the only person who's smiling.
And Sansa.
Sansa, I guess, yeah.
That's a good point.
But
then
keeping cool. Looking at that scene over again, Aziz pointed out that her eyes are kind of glassy, that maybe that smile is holding back tears or keeping a front up, And I also at first had the thought that the wine wasn't that meaningful because I don't know if the people even knew that mattered. I just figured everyone just drank, that it wasn't. I don't really know. I wish I knew better, both in the real world and in the history of Westeros, what sort of
I think the
knowledge or concerns of drinking when pregnant are. But
the scene from last season was pretty revealing.
Yeah, that was a reminder for me that, there's some sort of concern she must have. There was some sort of hint to Tyrion. So it did make me reevaluate that scene with Cersei.
That was a big catch there for me,
and
too.
I have also considered, by the way, this isn't directly connected to anything that we saw or we've talked about, but I do want to point out there, I feel like there is a significant chance for a time jump of sorts. I think we could easily get a time jump of maybe only 6 or 8 months, but maybe 6 or 8 years. I think it's a possibility. I don't know if it's a likelihood, but I want to consider it at least.
I could see something like that at the very, very end, but during, maybe not that long, but it would be kind of difficult to explain, like, what are the walkers doing during this whole time or whatever.
Well, that's part of what I'm wondering is if the walkers are defeated halfway through the season.
Okay.
Then we jump forward 4 years to now Dany's queen of the realm or Cersei's in jail. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I could maybe see that.
Yeah.
Any more? Do you have any more takes on that, Lady Gwyn? We can move forward. Otherwise, we can move forward to take some questions.
More or less move forward. I just wanted to point out that the whole thing about the refusing wine because she was pregnant is a very, very modern thing. It's a very rare kind of misstep for Game of Thrones to reference this modern sensibility because, in that particular setting, nobody would have cared about drinking wine. In fact, you would drink wine because you weren't drinking the water.
Because the water's even less safe.
The water would be even worse.
A little bit of alcohol is better for your baby than that filthy water.
A little bit of bacteria or whatever. Yeah,
I mean, that's why. And the wine was it's also important to note that a lot of medieval wine was really weak. It was cut with water so you wouldn't get drunk. The point of the was to have some alcohol in there so it would kill the bacteria. Yeah. So that's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
You're right. I don't know if we or had planned to get to this, but I had a list of characters that weren't in the trailer. Someone asked about that earlier too.
That's true. Okay, we can start there. As far as handling questions, it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
So we maybe did see Theon, or at least have a presence of him in those ships. That's one.
Yeah, I like that. I like that thought.
Yeah. And at first we weren't sure about Gilly, but she was in the crypt, so we've got her covered. So Melisandre.
Yeah, which part of why I wanted to bring this up, because just a funny story. I have a friend who was putting off watching Game of Thrones until he could marathon it running up to the final season coming out.
Nice.
And he marathoned it faster than he anticipated. He's already finished it. And he plays Magic. If anyone out there plays Magic the Gathering, you'll appreciate his nickname for Melisandre is Mono Red.
She is Mono Red. So no sign of Melisandre yet, but we know she went overseas, so... there's a tiny chance that's who came back with the Golden Company. That seems so weird. Why would she be on Cersei's? Why would she be hanging out with Cersei and Qyburn? That doesn't necessarily fit.
She could be deceiving them, or she could not care. She has a bigger vision.
She might be just hey, y'all need to be on the right side of this. but then why is the Golden Company guy there in that meeting too? Assuming that's him. Okay, so Lyanna Mormont's another one though.
Yeah, no, Lyanna.
We didn't really see her. I'm not sure she's quite a major enough character to be important to show in the trailer, but we're surely going to see her again.
Yeah, and she's kind of popular too. You know, I do expect her to be in it at least a little, but we got some characters that I think of are, tertiary at best, like Ed, so I thought we might see her. Yeah. And I was also a little disappointed to not see more women in armor ready to fight after that whole deal was made. So
my theory with that is that more of them are going to be archers, but that doesn't mean you wouldn't see them getting ready to fight.
Yeah. I thought it was a little bit of a miss to show some women ready for combat here.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Night King. We don't see Night King either, which is interesting. We maybe saw his horse. And there's another little thing to maybe talk about for a minute, which is he was all those Entertainment World Weekly covers that had a lot of different characters. One of them was Night King, and his eyes have 7-pointed stars, which is pretty wild. I don't know if that's meaningful at all. It might just be a fun little detail. At first, when I looked at it, it looked like 6 to me, but people showed me very clearly that it is 7. It was just kind of blurry. I don't know that it matters. It's just cool. It might just be a little. It's so subtle, and it's almost impossible that you would see that during the actual show.
Wouldn't Night King be more likely to be on his dragon than a horse at this point? Wouldn't one of his generals be on the horse?
Oh, very good call.
Shea makes a great point. If you guys couldn't hear that, she says, "Wouldn't Night King be on his dragon and not on a horse right now?" And that's 100% correct. Yeah. Why? Yeah. So that goes back to what
you might say that about Daenerys too. In the shot, we have a shot of her on a horse.
Yeah, that's true. Well, she's riding into arrive at Winterfell, but But this refers to what you said earlier, Sean, about maybe it's a little bit of he doesn't send everyone at Winterfell while he's got this army attacking Winterfell. He's busy attacking elsewhere, heading south with the rest of his army. Yeah, that's a good call. So that either isn't. So that's. I think the least we could say is that's not Night King. That's one of the other walkers. So good catch, Shea. Nice. I love when we make catches during an episode. That's just the whole. Really gives us the feel of we're all just trying to work this out now. This is all new information, and we're just trying to work through it. So. Moving on from Night King not being in the trailer, we have Ghost maybe being in the trailer. I'm not sure. That's a tough one. We kind of talked about that one already. I don't know if there's anything new to add to that. but a more significant one is Bronn. And Bronn is tricky. He's not in the shot, and you made a note here, Lady Gwyn, that he wasn't on any of the covers.
Yeah, I took note of that too.
Yeah, and then there's in the article I was talking about earlier, about the shooting of the battle. There's a massive cast shot, and it's not just people from the battle, because Cersei is in it, and the Mountain is in it, and I think Qyburn, everyone we've talked about is in it, with the exception of Bronn and Yara. So even Theon's there, Mel's there.
What's that?
Say the thing about Gemma Whelan.
Oh yes, Ashea wants us to note, and this is a good note, that Gemma Whelan, as in the actress that plays Yara, was pregnant in real life during this last offseason.
Also, Jerome Flynn does not, and Lyanna Headey do not want to be on.
Right, I was gonna say that. So that's an issue.
Very good. Yeah, that's why they wouldn't have been on the.
And you're not gonna have him instead of her, right?
Right, no chance.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jerome. She's the star.
So for cast pictures, that makes sense. So,
but I'm still disappointed not to get a clip of him, an image of him anywhere in the trailer.
So to be clear, Jerome Flynn and Lena Headey dated long time before Game of Thrones, and they cannot be on set together. They hate each other that much. It's apparently degenerated into shouting matches. That's why I think we pointed this out last year, but in case y'all missed it or forgot, remember the scene in the Dragon Pit where Bronn's like, "Hey, Pod, let's go have a drink together," and they leave. That's why they leave, because Bronn can't be there for that scene because of real life issues. So it's an unfortunate set of circumstances that Bronn is basically one of the few allies left to Cersei.
They can't be filmed with Cersei.
Can't be filmed together.
I can't be there with her.
So that's part of why some of the theories are like, maybe Bronn will just follow Jaime north. He wants to get his castle after all. He wants to get his debt paid.
That's my hope.
Yeah, but I don't know. Maybe it's possible Bronn is sort of like half written out because they just couldn't fit him in because of these real world issues. I really hope that's not the case, but we should potentially brace ourselves for that disappointment. Mm-hmm. And we talked about Yara, who's not in there. And what about Lady Stoneheart? Where's Lady Stoneheart?
That's who Arya is running from.
That's who Arya is running from, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's do this, and then we have a couple of questions. Some of these questions we've already kind of answered, kind of accidentally, by talking about other things. But let's do some worries of the week. Let's fire that back up. It's a recurring feature of our Game of Thrones coverage. Worry of the week, meaning which characters we feel are most likely to die. Just from the trailer, I'll go first while you guys think about yours. I'm going to say Varys. Very worried about Varys. So worried that I've basically written him off already.
Sorry.
You also, I'm very, very worried about Grey Worm, as I said. And if I'll name a third, I'll go with a third one. Gilly. Gilly down there in the crypts with Varys doesn't bode well. I mean, I feel like she's got a good chance to survive, but I'm a little scared she'll be a casualty. That's the one I'm least worried about. I think it would hurt the most. So but it's the one I think is the least likely of those three. Who's ready to go next? You ready, Sean, or Lady Gwyn? Who's ready to go?
You can go if you want.
Okay, I go. I mean, I kind of agree with you. Varys and Gilly kind of covered that.
Well, what about Little Sam? I didn't mention Little Sam. So if Gilly goes,
well, I think there's a fair chance that Gilly and Little Sam somehow survive. Because how could they? How could they really?
I know, it's hard.
But definitely, I see Varys, Grey Worm. I'm really worried about Brienne, because now that idea that that's her fighting and that Jaime is, that there's something like that. But that said, I think she's got more to do. So I'm not gonna let that really carry me away. I'm a little worried about her, but I'm gonna go with kind of like Beric and Tormund.
Oh, okay.
Even though they're not necessarily there, although they may show up there, we don't really know what the sequences are, right?
Yeah, the ordering.
I feel like they've escaped such a terrible situation already that how many times can we expect people to escape?
So I guess we could say that if Brienne and Jaime have their promise moment and have their kind of intimate moment before this battle, you'd be a lot more worried about Brienne surviving it.
I would be worried, although it depends how much they're gonna go along with what I think is gonna happen in the books. So,
it's tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, Sean, what do you think?
Let's see. I also am worried about Brienne. I started off being worried about Varys, and then along with that, Gilly and baby Sam down there. If these speculations of zombies coming up through the crypts is true, I don't see them making it. But and I just now talking about it had the thought of what if Sam's baby gets like
a little infant white walking along.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's what she took himself to avoid.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Damn.
Wouldn't that be?
Should have stayed in the south.
Yeah.
Nah. They had to go north. They had to.
So I am also newly worried about Brienne, just realizing that's who was probably fighting in that scene and we couldn't quite make out. And like you point out how it cuts to Jaime yelling no.
She'd be hard to fight if she came back as a white.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yikes.
So, and also I'll point out whenever I'm considering the worry of the week, I always think about like who's in danger's way, and it's a little bit different now than it has been in the past. But we're having cat quakes over here.
I gotta get a White Walker kitty in the shot as usual. Look at those blue eyes.
Look at here, buddy.
Oh yeah, the blue.
Look at the blue eyes.
Yeah, the blue.
So the character, I feel like that characters like Cersei and Sansa usually are not in harm's way, where characters like Jon and Brienne are. People charging out into battle with their swords, they're the ones that are more likely to die. But when a battle's coming to Winterfell, and if they're coming up through the crypts, then it's all bets are off, if you will. So.
Well, it's funny because I didn't actually mention, but one of the thoughts I had earlier was about, if their women and children are sheltering in the crypts, how there's a very good chance Sansa would be down there.
Yeah.
She was with Cersei in the Queen's Ballroom during the Blackwater. That would sort of be a good echo for her to be kind of, leading the group of women, children, and the old people, and kind of holding them in safety. But then if this happens with the dead rising in the crypts, I'm not saying I'm worried about Sansa dying, but in terms of being in harm's way, it could get a little bit sketchy for Sansa if she's doing that.
Maybe she'll really channel Cersei and be getting ready to feed a cup of poison wine to baby Sam instead of Tommen. Which leads us to another question. Such an important character that's really been pushed off to the side quite a bit is Tyrion. You see either way. He's a guy who could be in the battle, but he could also be hiding down in the crypts with the rest. So I just it's kind of hard to figure where he'll be. I mean, he won't be out in the front lines. He would be on the battlements if he's going to be fighting, probably. But he might just be hanging out in the.
I just had another thought, by the way. Where's Bran? Incapacitated Bran. I wonder if that could be where Arya's running to get to Bran for some reason.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Would he be in the crypts with everybody else? You think during this stuff?
I don't know. I alluded to that earlier. I mean, like obviously the the logistics of getting Bran downstairs, and now he's not just Bran being carried on Hodor's back. He's Bran. Look at the cast pictures. He's got a big wooden wheelchair.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone's gonna have to carry him downstairs into the crypts, which is not to say they won't do that, but he could be something that doesn't happen right away. He could end up in harm's way for some reason.
I feel like there's a good chance he'd be outside, not outside like below the battlements, but if he's just like his ability to like tell what's going on. It seems like that would be useful, and maybe even if he could try to control the undead. I don't think that's maybe ever going to happen, but if it does, it would be maybe in a moment like this.
In the Godswood, maybe.
Yeah, he could be in the Godswood in front of the tree, touching the tree during the battle.
Yeah,
yeah, that could fit. I like that idea. All right, let's take a few of these questions. We got some questions from patrons ahead of time. From Paul Berry. Question regarding Aria running, which seems to be a fairly major part of the trailer. I have this vision of her vaulting off the walls of Winterfell, her Valyrian dagger between her teeth to battle the Night King on Viserion. Of course, it could mean we lose Aria, which would be horrible, but could this fit with what we see in the trailer? Well, because we don't see Night King or Viserion, it's hard to say, but we've predicted I forget what your take on this theory is, but I predicted for a while that that's among my top picks for who's going to kill the Night King is Arya. Because she has a cat's paw dagger and because she's sneaky and can come up behind him, maybe. You know, the assassin skills. Like that's my best guess. I mean, Jon, it could be a tandem thing where Jon's fighting him and Arya comes up behind. But again, you got to, how does he get out? You know, the dragon issue is, how are they going to fight him on the ground? You know, that's the dragon issue's got to be solved first. So what do you guys think about this question?
I can certainly imagine Arya doing some, amazing feats. They've made her out to be pretty much a superhero. But I also, let's just say Arya is the most likely candidate to kill the Night King. I still think it's less than 51%.
Yeah, it's not overwhelming. I don't think that.
I think another potential bold prediction here is I'm not convinced the Night King's going to be killed. I think it ends and he's still alive. He might retreat to the north, but I think.
I see that as valid possibility. What about you, Lady Gwyn?
Well, I have a hard time seeing the Night King being killed if indeed this is, this battle happens in the third episode. I don't know how I can reconcile my expectations of what the ending of the story is with that happening so early. But I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of, 8 seasons, maybe it's really not that early. I don't know. Definitely, if someone's going to do it, Arya is probably one of the, top 2 candidates.
Yeah.
Who's the other one?
Who does it? Actually, maybe. Well, Jon would be the other one.
That's what I.
And my other kind of favorite theory is that Theon is able to shoot the dragon in the eye with an
obsidian. Yeah.
I like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. I guess Dany or a dragon.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have to obviously consider the possibility that Dany just defeats Night King Drogon versus Viserion, and it might be, if we see that, like, I feel like that's kind of more likely. Like, if we're taking book lore into that would be the kind of thing you would expect to happen over the God's Eye, like Daemon and Aemond.
Like a fight, yeah, like that.
Although chances are good, the other dragon also dies, right?
Yes. I personally think no dragons survived the series.
Yeah.
Book and show. No dragons.
Yeah.
I think one at most.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if both of the remaining dragons survive, that would be kind of unlikely. So yeah, I would agree with you that one is more likely than both.
I mean, I think the one that survives might be the Night King's dragon. I think that might be the one that survives.
Boy, that's that would be quite the epilogue if he's still out there. Question from Anthony Gonzalez. Might be the lamest question you've ever received, but do you think they will touch on perhaps Sansa or Jon ordering Northmen to get the Dothraki some kind of northern garb? I just can't wrap my head around them surviving in the north in winter. I also just want to see wildlings interact with Dothraki. Yeah, wildlings interact with Dothraki. I feel like that's too much to hope for, but we can still hope for it.
Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah.
They really haven't given these Dothraki much individiduality.
I feel like Tormund would get along well with whichever Dothraki leader.
Yeah, they have similar attitudes towards a lot of things. So yeah, I wonder, we might get a couple lines of that. Like we did get that from Sansa, last season. She's like, these need to be leather lined. There's just showing her taking charge. We could see something like that.
And I love to see it. That's another thing. It's I harp on this all the time, but it just drives me crazy the way the Aragorn in Lord of the Rings gets all the armies together and then leaves in the middle of the night. Like, not only
does he do that when you're the commander.
Not only does he not get together and give some inspiring speech or give out some instructions about where the archers go or whatever, he literally just leaves and doesn't tell anyone. And in the end, he's this great king. And he's not a great king at all. He might be a good fighter, but that's a big difference. And I think it's an important difference.
It's a lot like Jon Snow. He's not a great communicator. His leading by example is great. His willingness to face danger is honorable.
He's skilled, honorable,
but he's not a great communicator.
and we got to see Sansa do this. By the way, it was I want to pick on the Avenger movies, but I want to give them credit. Captain America multiple times was like organized, give instructions, and those few lines of dialogue are so much more meaning than 7 minutes of sword slinging around. So much more meaningful to see the leader lead.
2 less sword swings, a couple more lines of dialogue. Yes.
So I would love to see. Yep. I would love to see Sansa giving out instructions for how to equip the troops for winter.
Cool.
Sure. A throwaway line even is very simple to just have her say, get these men some furs.
They don't have to
One
cast some
line
new
of
actor.
dialogue,
They don't have
yeah.
to spend a bunch of money on a new scene or CGI or whatever. It's just a line of dialogue. So
Yeah, like you said, one line. A lot of times you can cover it with one line, and so that's why it's what makes it so frustrating that they couldn't find time for one line. Jojo Dixon question: do we think Gendry will be reworking all the known Valyrian steel weapons, i.e., all the different swords? We all need to name
all
them
of the ones.
All the ones. I won't go through them from memory in Tabo Mott's forge to make enough smaller weapons to go around. Or has Sam found the recipe for dragon steel in his scrolls from the Citadel, and we'll see new Valyrian steel being made with dragon fire and blood sacrifice? I think no. I think that's not unlikely to happen in the books. Although the sacrifice part, I'm not so sure that's going to be happening. I think they might just the reforging. Can happen without the sacrifice. Apparently, making new Valyrian steel, you need human sacrifice. But yeah, I kind of doubt that. I think they seem far more focused on obsidian weapons in the show. Like when they went north, they were all armed with obsidian. They talked about all the mining of obsidian. They seem to be like, yeah, Valyrian steel works really well, but we just don't have enough of it, and we're not gonna and that's not gonna change. Boom, that's it. I think the focus is on obsidian.
I totally agree.
Okay, so I think it's too much to expect them to introduce making Valyrian steel, because even Sam didn't find that in his books. They saw the dagger, but they didn't go any farther than that.
Like we've had one moment or discussion or event of Valyrian steel's forging, right? Just one time seasons ago, where the Valyrian glass has been over and over again, has been plot points. You know what I mean? It's a dozen episodes it's been come up. So
a question from Lord Commander George the Golden: will the Kingslayer slay any more kings? Maybe the Night King. So we can add him to the list of possible killers of the Night King, since we were just talking about that a minute ago. I think this is a clever idea. On the other hand, the Kingslayer name comes from George, of course, and George has hinted that the Night King isn't a being that we'll see in the books, which would be a not a death knell for this theory, because the show could just do their own thing and be like, look at that nice bookend of how this nickname works out. So yeah, it could happen. He wields Valyrian steel. I mean, I'm
now rooting for it. I hadn't considered that. So I'm now rooting for it. Yeah.
So it's on the table. I would rate that lower than some of the other options we named, but I wouldn't argue against it either. From Lady Airdross: does Theon make it to Winterfell? I won't accept any answer, but yes. Well, I don't think he's gonna die before making it to Winterfell, maybe, but he might have his own mission to go on. I don't know if he's still more focused on Yara or Theon's hard to figure. What do you guys think?
I mean, well, they were on his ship. The ships, like you mentioned, the 3 ships, and that's where the boat sex happened at the end of last season. So and they were heading that way, so they were together. But if he has a mission off that he does in the meantime, and there's time, if this happens a couple of episodes into the season, for him to do something else and then show up and shoot a dragon in the eye, which is my
the disappointment here for me is that this might mean we don't get the Great Eunuch Convention, because Varys, all the Unsullied, and Theon are there. Dany has done a great job of collecting the cockless on her side, and it's all for naught. They're not gonna.
Oh, I know.
Both Patrick O'Connor and Dana the Dreamy ask, do you think Harry Strickland is going to be wielding Blackfire? No, I think that's too much to hope for. Blackfire is going to probably appear in the books, but it hasn't even been mentioned in the books. It's only in the extended material. It pops up in the extended material quite a bit, but it is not mentioned in the main books at all. Though I do think there's a good chance we do see it. I think, George made sure to let us know that Dark Sister was taken to the wall by Bloodraven, which means he's given thought to these things. So yeah, I do think there's a good chance we see it in the books, but the show,
it is also something I don't expect it in any way. But it is something they could do with one line of dialogue.
Yeah.
If he's going to have a sword, all they have to do is have him say, me and my sword Blackfire will take on any enemy.
Sure.
So.
What do you think, Lady Gwyn? You think there's any chance we see it, or is that...
No, not in the show.
Okay.
I don't see... I wish they would. It would be useful.
we do get to see a pretty clear shot of Harry Strickland's sword it looks very ornate, pommel wise, but whatever. He's a fancy commander of the Golden Company, you know.
Yeah, it just seemed to match his armor. You know, it didn't.
Yeah.
Like I zoomed in on it too, and because I was trying to figure out if it was Jamie at first, probably. Like
yeah, it did look a little lion hilted, but it's like, oh yeah, no, that's not. Yeah. From Lord Commander Haema Hellmonth, there is a popular theory floating around that Brienne will finish Jaime's page in the White Book. Where does the trailer panel fall on that idea? If she finishes the series as Lord Commander, that would be a wonderful parallel to Duncan the Tall, who was also Lord Commander and who is her ancestor. What do you think, Lady Gwyn? I mean, this certainly gives us, if this comes true, then hey, that means Brienne lives, which that's good news.
Yeah. Well, I think we all, we don't forget how. I don't know. As far as what happens here in this show, I don't know. That actually gives me some hope about what I was talking about earlier. I think we shouldn't forget that Dunk's real ending was to sacrifice himself to save somebody. And if you listen to our recent Dunk and Egg episodes, I did make the point about, Dunk actually, his sacrifice really at Summerhall, everything in Dunk and Egg goes up to Summerhall, where everything in the main series radiates outwards from there.
Yes.
And Dunk may have actually saved the world by whatever action he did at Summerhall to save maybe Rhaegar. Maybe Rhaegar, who then went on to, or maybe Rhaegar and Rhaella. And that's why we even have Jon and Dany, as you like it.
True.
Yeah. If Brienne is really going to mirror Dunk, I actually have a lot of fear for her. Where she ends up in the end.
Dunk does die in the end. It's true.
Yeah.
As everyone does in the end.
We all die in the
end. Michal Schick, who has done voices for both of our shows and does podcasting with Vassals Over Kingsgrave podcast. She asked why. What's that?
I said she was our egg.
Yeah, right on. She asked why the lack of Tyrion. Does this imply something about where he spends most of the season or his eventual fate? I'm not sure we have anything else to add from what we said earlier about Tyrion, but I think, maybe it's just that so many of these shots are battle-oriented and he has fought in battles, but less in the show than he does in the book. Like they tampered back, they've taken that back a bit. Like he fights in the books a pretty good amount, but in the show it's pretty minor. Like he misses that entire battle of the Green Fork because he gets that hammer in the face and gets knocked unconscious. But he
didn't miss the entire battle, just 99% of it.
But he's in the thick of it in the books, and it's quite intense. So and he fights and does okay. And he fights in the Battle of the Blackwater, which does happen in the show. He does fight in the Battle of the Blackwater in the show.
Even in the show, Tyrion would have 2 purple hearts.
Yes, yes, he would. He's not. That's why it's hard to say because he absolutely is capable of fighting. But I don't know that he's going. It doesn't mean he's going to. That's a tough question. I think it's I don't know if we can give a strong answer on that, but I think we've set the expectation at least.
He is also I'm going to say while he's been a primary central character.
Yeah.
I think that if you have to start paring down, if you had to, who are the main characters? And most media, most movies, shows, books, whatever, the main character would be like 1 or maybe 3 or 4 people. But in Game of Thrones, it's like 10 or 12. But if you have to start trimming people down, once you get down to 5, 4, somewhere around there, Tyrion's not part of it anymore, right? I think.
Yeah.
When it really starts to come down to how the show's going to climactically end, it's Dany, Jon, Cersei.
All right, then let me put you on the spot. Does he survive the whole series?
I'm going to say yes. I think that he does. Okay. But I'm not saying it with very much confidence.
Okay.
But I do think that he's going to just be relatively less important, just get less airtime at the moment when we're having more and bigger battle sequences and battle planning and more of the central characters together at the same time, right? He's just not going to be playing as relatively large a role. Yeah. Now, that said, it's hard to know what to take from the trailer, right? Just because we only saw a second-long clip of him. Well, we only saw a second-long clip of 12 other people.
Yes, yes. Bran and Sam, etc. So many. I don't even have to name them all. One thing about this as well, before I want Lady Gwyn hear Lady Gwyn's answer on this as well, but the whole idea of completely spaced out. Go ahead, Lady Gwyn.
You think? I think so. Tyrion, lack of still talk. We're still on Mikhail's question, right?
Yes.
This is. I had the same kind of concern, but then after going over the trailer over and over again, I just think it's like what you were saying, the fact that this is mainly got to do with the battle, and he's just not apparently involved in the scenes that they chose to show us. I don't think it's necessarily that he's not going to be very involved in the rest of the season. And I think, I even got the feeling that one shot of him was kind of forced in there so that they could be like, oh, don't forget Tyrion.
Yes,
don't worry, he's still here.
Yeah. I feel very similar because it's such a non-reveling shot. It says he's standing there looking up. And like Sean said, he has to look up at pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So I remember what I was going to say, which is that I think maybe the show suffered, certain arcs suffer more than others from the loss of the source material when they had to move past the books. And I think Tyrion's arc is one of the biggest ones that suffered. Tyrion's role in the show really nosedived after, say, season 4 or 5. He's still a fantastic actor, but his role has been less important, and of course he's had all these failures. Like he hasn't actually given great advice to Dany, or maybe you could say the advice was pretty good, but it just didn't go well. That's a whole other conversation. The point is his track record hasn't been great, and he's just had less to do, like you said.
Yeah,
so I think that
he starts off being, I don't know how to say this, his own storyline.
Yes.
Right? He's doing his own thing. He's in charge of other people, right? But eventually, he's just assistants to other people. You know what I mean? So
the best scene for him last season, I think, was when he met with Jaime in secret underneath King's Landing amongst the dragon skulls. That was a really good scene, and that's getting back into his core character, his relationship with his family. Of this point, like, Jaime is about to be like his friend again. They're about to be on the same side, so I don't know. There may be a little bit of conflict there, but they're both kind of aligned again. So, and of course, he's not going to make up with Cersei.
Here's one thing, by the way, and I just from reading the books, by the way, it's reinforced in my mind. Pretty much the best dialogue is Tyrion.
Okay.
And pretty much the second best dialogue is Jaime. They have the most quips. They're the most quick-witted. Does that make sense? And the two of them together, like, I hope we get lots of Jaime and Tyrion interactions.
Anything to add to that, Lady Gwyn?
No.
All right. Next question is from Lauren Scipione. She says, this has been puzzling me a bit. Is Jon walking on water now? Ashay, can you pull up the shot of Jon in front of the werewood again? Because from her take here, it looks like Jon is standing where the lake should be. So either the Winterfell pond is frozen over, which is significant in itself, or they just kind of goofed a little bit here. Or maybe,
I think it was like that last season. I think it was like that last season.
Oh, really?
Even. Yeah.
Okay, good catch. So that's interesting. Maybe it's frozen over. That's
frozen.
When Bran was out there and Sansa went to talk to him, remember? Okay. I'm pretty sure it was iced over.
Oh, yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, when he gave Arya the dagger and all that. It's a good point. Okay, which if that happens in the books, it's really significant because those are hot springs.
Yeah.
It's like if that freezes over, it's like, whoa, that's cold.
Yeah.
So I guess we don't have a strong answer.
They don't have to be hot springs in the show, right? They haven't even referenced it, to be fair.
Ashaya says they didn't mention the hot springs in the show, so they don't have to be hot springs. That's why I said in the books it would be a big deal, because I don't know if they've... Yeah, you're right. They haven't even mentioned it in the show, so it may not be a thing. It may not matter. Also, we're talking real life. They're outside. That pond is probably really actually frozen.
Yeah.
You know? They're like, wait, I'm going to melt the ice on this thing. Okay, get the blowtorch.
Bring in the flamethrowers.
Oh, no, actually, just use the dragons. They've got dragons.
Yeah.
Use the dragons.
A question from John Del Vento, super chat. John Del Vento, very talented musician, by the way, everybody. When Jon and Dany are feeding their dragons, and they seem to be way up north, are they on some kind of side mission or something? What are they up to? Yeah. We talked about this a little bit earlier. My take is Jon is learning to fly for the first time. It definitely going to be more to it, but that's got to happen. He can't just go from, I'm a Targaryen, boom, I'm flying. You know, although that is kind of what Dany did.
This scene could easily be just to show off the dragons. It'd just be like an opening sequence. We just see the dragons flying through this northern landscape, and then they land at Winterfell. You know, it could not be plot integral, but maybe it could be like maybe because another thought. You know, I pointed out that it seems like the dragons would be part of this battle, and maybe they just don't want to show that to us, at least not yet, But it seems like the ice dragon would be part of it too, and we didn't see that.
Yeah.
Again, it's so hard to know what the order of things are going to be, but I wonder if it's possible that through the course of the battle that lasts all night long, the dragons get removed because they chase off the Night King and the Ice Dragon, and the chase continues into the next morning, and it's daylight.
Would explain why they're not, or why they were avoiding showing them during the battle,
and maybe why? Because I thought it looked like one had a rider and one didn't, and maybe Dany is on one of the dragons and Jon stays behind.
I sort of agree. The problem is it's just Jon's the way Jon dresses. It would be a lot harder to tell. And Dany's in all white and gray on a black red dragon. Yeah, Jon might be harder to tell because he's wearing like dark colors. But that's a good thought. Very good thought. LML, hey LML, shout out to Mythical Astronomy of Ice and Fire. He says, my theory was that Dany and Jon have to get to the Heart of Winter before the Night King gets to the Isle of Faces. I think that's a kind of a cool idea. It feels a little more booky to me than show, because the show is just really not talked about the Isle of Faces like at all.
No.
So that is a problem with that theory. But I love it as a book idea. That's cool. Like a race to the center of these power centers, or whatever you want to call them, these mystical centers of power.
To be fair, they could just bring up entirely new things, especially when we have Sam reading through these books and Bran with knowledge of everything.
You're totally right, and that's how the show tends to handle some of the things, because they don't expect people to remember something they brought up in season
4 seasons
2
ago.
And that's so that's a good point. I'll agree with that. Yeah. Super chat from Gabriel Lind. I was wondering if you guys have any thoughts on Arya being overconfident going into the battle, and what would be the takeaway here for the next battle, assuming there is one.
Arya overconfident?
Well, yeah. So he sort of addressed this at the beginning. I think maybe she's being overconfident on purpose to show, to help other people feel confident. But I think there's a good chance she's just a little cocky, and that will change her attitude though because we see her in fear. I love the juxtaposition in the trailer. I think it was really well done. But I think that because she hasn't had this kind of she's shown how badass she is, but she hasn't faced like anything like this, like armies and the undead. So I think some of it's bravado, but she is capable. I mean, she is badass. She has good reason for thinking she's badass. So, but I think it's a good point that it may be a learning experience for her, and she may take a follow-up battle, if there is one, a lot more seriously, maybe more sober. We'll see. That's a good question. Good point. Do you guys have anything to add to
that? Not really. Just, it put me in mind of sort of that the article in Entertainment Weekly where he interviewed the actors, and Maisie Williams was talking about her participation, and you realize that she's never been in one of these big battle scenes. So Maisie hasn't, ergo neither has Arya. So as far as cockiness or, being overly confident, it's her first battle. So very likely that she's going to have those feelings. Hopefully it's just a learning curve for her, and there is going to be a, take two for her.
Right on. Okay, so let's see. Do we have any other questions? Yes, we do have actually a couple more, and then we'll call it a day. There is some debate in the chat, by the way. The chat is always great. I wish I could pay more attention to it. We just have so many questions, and it moves so fast when there's so many people there. It's a FOMO thing for me. Some debate in the chat over whether the Godswood pool is warm or not in the show. It's very clearly hot spring in the pool in the books.
Okay, it is, because some people were really very clearly debating that and saying that they thought that it was cold in the books or not warm.
No.
Okay.
No, it's warm.
Yeah,
they're hot.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, so Rebecca Santa has 2 questions for you, Lady Gwyn. One is, where did you get the travel poster for Sunspear that's behind you? And 2 is, do you have any kitties?
Okay, I'll move so that we can all get a look at that.
That is a really cool poster.
I love that poster. I think I got it on Redbubble, but it was a long time ago. And if you know Redbubble, things kind of come and go. So 4 or 5 years ago on Redbubble. So
cool.
That's all I can remember. And do I have any kitties? Not at present. I had 6 at one point, and then I had 2, and then had one, and I'm presently in between kitties.
You got a yoke boy instead of cats.
I have a yoke boy. I am a big kitty lover. Today I asked people to send kittens on Twitter, and I want to shout out all the people that sent me kittens, because I think I ended up with about, I don't know, 100 kittens on Twitter today. So there's that.
That is cool. Thanks everyone who sent Lady Gwyn kittens. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up. Let's say adios. Lady Gwyn, please tell everyone what you guys over at Radio Westeros have been working on and where to find y'all on social media and such.
Yeah, you can find us on RadioWesteros.com, Twitter at Radio Westeros, and of course on Facebook as well. We have just wrapped up our 3-episode series with reviewing the Dunkin' Egg series. That last episode just came out last week. Currently at work on the Dance of the Dragons collaboration with you all at History Westeros.
Yeah.
And we got some other cool things in the works, which will be including a new patron exclusive episode, which will
very cool.
be announcements made shortly. So
all right. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Thanks to Lady Gwyn. Glad to have Sean back in the fold. Good to see everyone who came today. I know the hype is strong. I guess we could say now it begins. No. Now it ends. Right. Yeah. Okay. But we're not actually there yet. It hasn't actually begun yet. The hype has begun, but the season hasn't. But we're going to be there soon. We're excited to go through this experience with all of you. It's going to be a lot of fun. And let's we got to hold tight for another few weeks until we're ready to get going. But we'll have probably one more pre-episode before the season. We'll probably have some more thoughts on this, and maybe they'll drop another trailer. If they drop another trailer, then we'll definitely have more thoughts.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think at least one more.
Yeah, there's a chance we have 2 more, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We'll let you all know. Keep abreast of our doings on social media. Follow us at Westeros History on Twitter. Follow Sean at Dancing Sean. Shea is at Miranese Not. And we will be sharing. Lady Gwyn, you're at Lady Guinevere. That's kind of hard to spell. Yeah. But they'll find you.
I recommend you go to at Radio Westeros, and then you can find links to me and Yoke Boy.
Right on.
Also on Twitter. Not trying to spell them.
Okay. Well, unless you guys have any other messages. Nope. Okay. Let's say Valar reread us, Valar rewatch us, and let season 8 commence. See you all next time. Woohoo!